for Charles Patterson.
Good evening, B's, G's, NB's, Peens, Vagines, and in-betweens. I come to you, as always, as Charles, otherwise known as CeePo. We're trying to phase out the old nickname. Thanks mostly in part to my featured guest. I'm joined by another road worker, if you will. That could be taken so many different ways. I didn't really mean to put it that way. But joining me is musician Gray Poupée. Gray?
It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm sorry for all the low blows I took at your nickname there. That's totally not fair. But yeah, it's awesome to be here. It's awesome to talk about some interesting, fun times we've had on the road. As a fellow road worker or former road worker. Yeah, that's a good point. It's about the whole what's the difference between a road worker and a street worker? I kind of thought that's where Charles was going, and I didn't know he knew about my past. But
Hey, listen, money's money.
It's true. I mean, $5 is $5.
Oh, now highlight chat goes over my face. So when we're both on screen, bit of an echo on Gray's part. Yeah. Is it to the point where you can't stand it? Because I hear it too, but I'm doing this on OBS. Is it tolerable? Is a better way to put it.
Good question.
And there's a delay too,
yeah.
so I have to wait. I mean, I'm easy. Annoying me take a lot. Well, I beg to differ.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it, but I also hear Gray as well, and I'm sure, it makes it seem like Gray is a Marvel villain. All right, so just
I mean, that's just one of the reasons. I kind of leaned into that in my past as well. So, yeah, I can get that.
Okay. All right. So, if we just ask that you do Bane, at some point in the show, then break it
All
out.
right, deal. I think we can make that work.
Indeed. Your body. All right. So.
Was spoken in the dark. I don't know any other lines.
That one was free. So, for those of you who don't know, Gray was a musician. I was instructed to put failed musician, and I put quotes around it. We both, regardless of however we want to put it, are on a sabbatical. I have not taken the stage since COVID. I was an entertainer. Lately, since since COVID, I've been more about, tutelage and tutoring and other things like that. And again, I don't have the website where you can order my services. I am so ill prepared for making money. But well, none of us got big, clearly. So
yeah,
we did, however, have, enough to tell stories and horror stories and what we thought we were getting into and finding out the hard way.
Nobody wants a story of when everyone's just clapping for you. Like, how good is that story? You kind of want the opposite. And that's the ones that really stick with you. I don't know. I don't remember any victories, but they were few and far between.
Wait. It just got really, really gnarly there this time. Where was I?
Take two.
All right. So the intro was good enough. What you saw the first 3 minutes or so was decent until the wheels started to shake and things tumbled and fell apart. But we both have different perspectives of being, the act before the act, so to speak. And anytime I've had discussions with other entertainers, um, has been similar but different horror stories, and I guess what I wanted to get into was, personal experiences as, just being touring opening acts and the person before the person or the act before the act that people were there to see. Um, so I guess what I'll start with, if you're just joining us, I um, was a road comedian. Gray was in a number of bands. Am I right in that?
Oh yeah, entirely too many. Yeah, none that were successful though. So yeah, that was what I was previously billed as failed musician. You haven't heard of any of them, so wouldn't say we were successful. But yeah, quite a few bands, quite a few of them toured, but none of them successfully. So yeah, I think we probably have similar, you know, stories, so to speak, horror stories, if you will, hell gigs. Yeah, good times, man.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I'm definitely excited to hear yours.
yeah, I'm gonna lose more friends by the time this thing's over with my hell gigs.
Oh, I'm sure.
Pardon. So before you ever like started doing this like as a thing and you knew that you were hitting the road and going to be performing for audiences, and this was more than just a bunch of guys performing in a garage. What was your idea of a dream gig?
So, to be honest, it was probably just doing, I think about like what got me inspired to want to do it, and it was honestly probably one of the first shows that I saw. It was No Use for a Name, Bracket, Consumed, and Mad Caddies. And I don't know, something about that. It was just like super electrifying. And not all of the bands were great. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, wait, I could do that. Like, they're not doing anything amazing. Like, it's just punk. And, it's great. But so I don't know. It was just that inspiration of like, wait a minute, this is like obtainable. I could actually do that. So I don't know. It was just kind of seeing that and just, I guess, romanticizing what it would be to, go on the road and perform in front of people, get paid to actually like play music or entertain. And then, it would be a real bonus if people like, knew the lyrics or something, if the crowd was kind of,
Mm.
giving it back to you or something. Um, yeah, I didn't think of, the other like 23 hours in the day and what all would be entailed in that and like living in a van with like four dudes. It's a bit tough. But yeah, I think it was just it came from romanticizing what could be. But I think that ultimate gig was probably like I think the band I was super into back then was Converge. They're a really I guess you might call them metalcore, but they were also like in the hardcore scene back in the day. But I think they were like the ultimate band that was like, I could do that, and that looks really fun. Yeah, I don't think I ever obtained anywhere near that. So yeah, that's why I'd say failed. But what about you? What would be like your dream gig before you ever got in?
Oh,
Would it
I
be headlining or would it be like because that's the thing. Like I think when I first started, it would be opening for like these
that's
bands.
exactly
I-
what my answer was going to be. Yeah, who
hmm.
was your dream act that you would have opened for?
I think it would have been like a Converge or something like that. Like we were definitely trying to rip them off, like that first band that I was in. I don't know. I liked at the time it was kind of metalcore and kind of math core, if you will. So like the Ultra Game Plan, Converge, bands like that. I was super into them. I think that would have been my dream gig opening for one of them. But yeah, I did not open for them. Just people that sounded just like them. But yeah,
Mm,
not the originators.
yeah,
But sorry, I cut you off completely. So
no,
what would your dream gig have been?
no, it was probably Carlin, and
Oh,
I
that
had
would be awesome.
it would have. It was something that I knew he was kinda getting long in the tooth, and his specials in the 2000s were getting a little more dark, and, I've only shared the same space with him once, and it was me paying to see him at a gig in, I think, 2004, um, and I was like, "Man, he's not really sharp." And it turns out, like, a week later, he checked himself into rehab, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was like a nice just punch right down to any, like, glorified, anything. Never meet your, idol, I guess, but I didn't really meet him. It was just I went to a show and I was like, "Hmm, I don't know about that." Um, but yeah.
Wow, though. I mean, that's awesome. Like, at least you got to meet the legend. I mean, I don't know. I just have seen so much of his work, and it's just I don't know. I don't know if I could have actually like I don't know. I don't know if I could have like actually said anything. I think I would just be like awestruck or whatever. But I don't know. That is hmm. That's just interesting. But
Oh, no, I didn't
I
I
don't know.
didn't meet him. We had such a like, I had paid for a ticket, and he performed at and I always change the name of it. I don't even know what the hell it's called. Uh, Something by the Northern State Parkway. If you're familiar with Long Island, it's
That's
that
awesome.
circular arena thing by where that, new movie the new, it's not new anymore, where a movie theater that was new 20 years ago is. But we paid, saw him. I was kind of taken aback by how unsharp he was, and, like, I didn't want I didn't want to stick around and meet him and be like, "Dude,
Hmm.
what the hell happened?" I just wanted to let my memories be the same. It's kinda like, I don't know, somebody, being in cryo sleep and then waking up and then realizing that the Star Wars sequels are what they are, and then being like, "Oh, oh, yeah, no, put me back in there. I'm alright, thanks." But, the fact that
Yeah,
he was checked into
I,
rehab, like, it was just like, "Alright, well, that explains some of it, or most of it, maybe."
for sure. Yeah, that is really sad. I know he's had a couple struggles, or he had a couple struggles throughout the
Yeah.
years, but I don't know, just considering like how many times he kind of came back, it was just so prolific. I
Mm,
don't know. I still would have given anything even to see like a hell gig or a shit gig from him. Just when I'm thinking like there's kind of like the most infamous one. Like I guess as a comedian, like what do you think of Dice Clay's Is It the Day the Comedy Died? The album of him just bombing,
oh,
like just
I
horribly bombing.
I think that's like d when I tutor people, I make them listen to that because it's such great
Yeah,
preparation for, "Listen,
for sure.
this guy was at the."
So I don't know. Like I think you could get something out of like even like an off gig, but
Yeah,
hmm.
it's brilliant
Was it?
training because, like, he's just eating it, like, he's dying up there, and then he just, like, resorts to notes with no context, and it's just, like, one guy is laughing really loud, and it's just like,
Yeah.
this is what shit shows are like, soak it up, and he was huge when I think he had 2 of them, The Day the Laughter Died and The Day the Laughter Died Part 2, and they were
Yeah.
I don't know why the first one was enough. You got the message across. This is what a shitty show is like. But he did 2 of them. And, oh,
I know he's advised not to release it, but, I don't know, it just seems so legendary. And so, I don't know, it just seems like even if you see an off night well, I guess it depends. If it's just an off night, maybe you won't get that much, but to
mm,
watch, like, one of the big, like, really not do well, it seems like there's something you could get out of that. But,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it a little bit too rose-colored.
R
I definitely would, I guess if I was gonna see Carlin once, I'd wanna see him,
Oh,
kill him,
no, no,
but
I'm glad I did. I just I don't know. It's not the way I would have. It's not the dream scenario that I envisioned. And there were like other comedians, like when Louis C.K. rolled in during a showcase, and I happened to be on the same bill as him. It was just like, oh, that's neat.
That would be awesome.
That used to be a really nice thing that I had on my resume, and then I don't know. I guess he did some
Well, I
things.
think he can put it back on soon. I think he's back in the it's no Cosby, I'll put it that way. But, yeah, um,
Yeah.
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 But no, I mean, like, still, like, that would be awesome to say that you could have that. I don't have, an equivalent to that. There's a few bands that kinda got signed, but even if I said the names, nobody would know who they are. But yeah, it wasn't that great. We didn't play with, like, the Carlins or, the Louis C.K.'s of, our genre, so to speak. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's that's an interesting question that I didn't have prepared. Let's say you did have a gig where you either opened for or another band opened for you that, they got big and got canceled or what have you. How
Ooh,
would you handle that?
that is interesting. I think I'd still it's like, what research do you do for the bands that, you're on the bill with? Same thing with, like, a
Mm.
comedian. It's like, I don't know if there is some active controversy, maybe you'd, like, voice your opinion that you don't wanna be on there, but, like, do you ever know, like, any of the people's names? So, I don't know. I don't think I'd ever feel weird about it. Like, I've definitely, shared the stage with a bunch of bands that I didn't like that, it wasn't like me sharing the stage meant I support them or, endorse their music.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't think I'd be too weirded out about it, but, if it's something like the Louis C.K. thing, maybe I would have leaned into it because, not only is that like an actual like name, but hey, there's actually like a controversy. So I don't know. I think I'd dig it, but I don't know. I guess it depends what the controversy is.
Yeah.
Controversy is. Yeah. I would have to think if it was something like Louis C.K. I would still go along with it, but I don't know. There is kind of like the whole like mayhem thing where
Oh,
there was a I'm trying to
that's
remember who the other bands were, but there's a couple of them that it's like, okay, I don't think I condone that controversy there, but you know, uh yeah, I don't think I would shy away from it. I would just call it as it is, like yeah, I share a bill with a lot of different people. Yeah, if I actually got to be the headliner, maybe then I'd take responsibility for, like, bringing them on the road, but, I don't know. It just seems weird, like, I'm never in control over, like, who is on the bill with us. It's just kinda, "Will you do this gig?" You gotta say yes or no, but you
it
don't get to choose who's on it usually.
it's a little bit easier as a music group too because, at least, you could be like, "Yeah, we put it to a vote and, we did a private
Yeah, I
vote
was
and"
overruled, yeah.
yeah. I wanted
I'm not
nothing
gonna
to
tell
do
you
with
who
it,
voted
but
for who, but I was overruled.
Oh,
Yeah, you would have an out, so I mean, that you're right. Whereas, like, a comedian, it's just you, so you have to answer for it. Fair
yeah.
enough. You can't always say, like, "Hey, I was outvoted, guys." That
I
would be nice
tried.
to
I
have kinda
kicking
go
and
back on.
screaming, I tried. Marcy, 17 Danish kroner tack. Just want to help you buy
Oh,
StreamYard.
wow.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no duck logo.
Um, yeah, so what would you after, like, having experience, what would you consider a dream gig once you know what to expect?
So, that's awesome. I think ideally, we wouldn't be the opener. As I'm sure you've experienced, like opening, it just sucks to try and get everyone's attention. Usually, they don't want to. People are still outside, like nobody's really filing in. So, ideally, it
Yeah.
would be like the middle act, and I'd want to have like a good band that I respect coming next, so the audience is actually, like excited to see them.
Mm,
And it would be cool if it matches energy, because so the one that I toured with the most, we were like a metal band and kind of towards the metalcore. There's a lot of screaming. Some may have called us like screamo. They paired us with a few acoustic acts as like the headliners a few different times. It did not go over well. Like those people did not want to see us, and the people that came for us. We're not there to see them. So
Ah,
ideally, it would be like a great pairing. So for that band, like if we could have opened for or middled for Converge, that would have been awesome.
mm.
Or like a hardcore band of the time, that would have been great. I still think that would have been an amazing act or amazing bill, but yeah, we just kind of never got to that level, and we were in the middle of the country. They're kind of on the coast, so it didn't quite work out. Also, our skill level was not up to snuff. I would say we were more ambitious to get playing in front of people rather than write the songs, and that's kind of an issue.
Hmm.
Yeah, kind of learned that a little bit, but I'm sure you've noticed people who wanted to be on stage but didn't quite have the jokes. I think we would kind of have
We've
fallen into
we've
that
discussed at
category.
least one. At least one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's but yeah, what about you, sir? What after being in the comedy game, did that change like what your dream gig would have been? Or
So, I don't know how much different it is for musicians, but comedians, there's like a bit of a hierarchy, paying
mm,
dues, so to speak.
for
You
sure.
know, you get your legs by doing open mics, and open mics suck because they're normally
Hmm.
just comedians performing for other comedians, and it's like who pays to go see an open mic night? Like, genuinely is like, "Hey, they're having 5 people who don't know what they're doing tonight at the bar. Let's go check it out." And, like, eh, those were the worst, but I didn't realize that it wasn't there was something in between, um, open mic and the next step, and they're called bringer shows, and,
Hmm.
oh, those, like, were the worst because, I don't know that many people, and it like, just like a comedy club has a such and such drink minimum, for
Hmm.
comedians that are, still paying their dues and, making their way up the ranks, doing bringer shows was like, alright, you have to have at least 4 or 5 or whatever audience members, and it's just like, dude,
They
I
do those for bands too. It's really bad. Usually it's like, okay, so the band's all bringing like their girlfriends and there's like maybe a couple other people, but yeah, it's the same type of deal. Those bringer shows suck. So either you end up paying out of your pocket to
yeah.
essentially play that night to the other band's like girlfriends and the other bands, or you actually somehow scrounge up the people to show up, and they're not fun. Those are the worst type of gigs
Yeah.
ever. But you view that as like a step up from the open mic?
Yeah, because at
'Cause at
least
least then you're not responsible for bringing in, like, 5 people to see
oh, yeah,
not
no,
necessarily good comedy.
that was stressful. That was stressful, like, I
Mhm,
mean, you can only that's a card you can only play once, like, when you have
mhm,
family and friends, and, like, you don't wanna ask them to you still learning the ropes because they'll go see you and be like, "Oh, fucking it's terrible." Like
no. I've seen that before, no.
like, "Oh, I actually paid for that. That was terrible. Like, I coulda I had to get a babysitter, or there was all this shit. I'm not doing that again." And the clubs would expect you to do this numerous times, and it's like, I don't wanna burn bridges with people I know while I'm just trying to, get a feel for things, like, so,
For
yes,
sure.
that was certainly more stressful. The telling people or asking people to show up, I mean, I've literally been like, "Can I just give you the money to whatever it would cost for them?" Uh,
We've
eh
done that before too, like, as
yeah,
bands, they give you tickets, so all you have to do is either turn back in the tickets or give them the cash, so oftentimes it's, you just give people tickets if they swear they'll show up, and then whether they do or not, you still owe the money to the venue, so
mm,
yeah, that's definitely not fun. Definitely went through that as well, and it does feel like you only get, like, 1 or maybe 2 times of asking somebody to do that, and, then you're
yeah,
just kind of the worst. You know, nobody wants that guy who's always asking you every weekend to come see them do something not
yeah.
great.
In in New York City, if you go to, like, Times Square, or like any like touristy spot, you'll see some dude with like pamphlets, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's a comedian trying to get you to go
Hmm.
see the comedy show, and however many he turns those into paying customers, he or she or they may get stage time in exchange for it.
Hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, "How
I know
many
in New York,
hours?"
flyering is huge. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just where you're supposed to cut your teeth, and then one day you might work up to the doorman. But
Ugh.
yeah, like I don't know. That just sounds intense, man. I could not imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, as someone socially not a butterfly, if you will. Yeah, that would be tough. Just walking up to people and being like, "Come see a comedy show tonight." I don't know who it is. Just go. Just
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Oh, no
But
English?
I mean, someplace
Sorry.
like New York, you might have a shot. Like there are at least people in town looking for something to do. Where like if you try that, like where I'm from in the middle of the country, like nobody is just out walking about looking for like some open mic or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. At least you'd have a shot, kind of where you're at, but
Plus
not that
plus
that would make it fun.
whoever you convince to show up, when they see you take the stage, they're like, "Oh, I'm supposed to take this guy
Yeah, I just
seriously? The guy who was passing out pamphlets before? No, no. Flyers or whatever? No."
yeah, that's. I mean, like we definitely did flyering, but I don't think it did anything. Like just every record shop we knew of, we'd put in like flyers and like bulletin boards and stuff. But I don't know that any of that ever helped. And also, they would have like the like construction sites. Like oftentimes, they'd have the wall that you could kind of fly
Mm.
or the side of. Yeah, I don't know that any of those ever helped really, but yeah, it was fun trying to come up with like flyers and posters and stuff. You could kind of get artsy with it. I don't know that it's necessarily the same for a comedy show.
Yeah.
So we might have had one advantage like visually for that, but
It's weird, like, I'm not a salesman. I'm making fun of salesmen,
I'm
or,
not either.
yeah, I'm an artist, like, what eh, do a better job of
Turns out you
having
have
a
to be both now.
yeah, yeah, maybe more even. Um, Simon, hey, guys, happy to catch one of your live streams. What's going on? I believe Simon's over, I know, in Europe, if I'm
I was
correct.
gonna say he says greetings from Vienna, like two
Vienna,
comments down from there. So
right, okay.
Vienna,
Um
awesome place.
Suffering from post-touring depression, even if it's just people
Ooh,
50 people, you get used to attention. Yeah, uh, performing
for
live on
sure.
a regular basis does something to your brain and even your soul. Indeed. Vienna, yes. I knew it was Europe. Um, but, I'm happy. I must be really late over there? But greetings. I'm happy, and obviously Simon too is a performer. Um, but after I started, I won an amateur contest in upstate New
Nice.
York, and it was held at a VFW. And what was
That's
funny,
awesome.
what's
Played a
funny
couple of those.
Yeah, what's funny is they like, I just did my material. I didn't know what a VFW was. Oh, you stupid kid. I was just like, stage time. And I did my religion bit, and they were like, it was like this weird mixed reaction. And I was like, hmm, okay. And I didn't realize that there was this giant cross behind me. And then I looked as if, like, the teacher caught me, and I'm like, oh, he's a big deal here, huh? And everybody started laughing, and it was like, okay, well, that's good. I guess my mistakes are, learning on the fly. But,
I mean, they have to forgive you.
yeah,
At least they're
those are the
supposed to.
rules. Um, so I won that amateur contest, and that got me a gig to perform without having to do anything, you know,
That
uh
is really cool.
And then I told you about when I was doing MC work at a club where the owner was just trying to save money, and he's like, "You can MC if you want, but I can't pay you." And I'm like, I
I
don't
mean, that's
care."
kinda
Well, go
I
ahead.
I don't know, that would be fun, and it seems like that would be a way to kinda cut your teeth, like, emceeing
Oh
would be
yeah,
great because you could just go out there with, like, little bits at a time, and, if you're ever, like, truly in a panic, it's, "And welcome your next comedian." Like,
yeah,
I don't know, it seems like that would be awesome.
yeah.
Out of curiosity, when do they usually let people MC? Is it
That's usually
after,
that's usually the first step. It, when you're good enough, then you start emceeing. But I don't know how it works in the city because I
Mhm,
left the city to start making money, and then, like, I was touring all of these flyover states, so to speak, and if I did perform in New York City, it was like showcase gigs. It was, 10 minutes tops where, like, people were, you know you can get bumped up the show because Seinfeld was notorious for just rolling in and, I
mhm.
wanna do 10 minutes, and if you're an audience
It's
member,
kind
would
of
you ra yeah.
cool, but kind of horrible with that whole hierarchy thing, but as you mentioned, it's like, yeah, if, somebody who has cut their teeth and does have that gravitas, if they just wanna walk in, apparently, they just get to. Yeah, that's kind of unheard of in, like, music, like, you've never heard, like, "Okay, this
Yeah,
band's performing." Just kidding, like, it's actually gonna be
Metallica
Metallica,
showed up, so you're being bumped.
yeah. So I've never heard of a bump, like, in music, so that definitely is different, but there still is that hierarchy of, like, these guys, they haven't even gone on the road, like, they haven't, like, toured, they don't know anything. There is a bit of hierarchy like that, but nothing like getting bumped. I could just imagine what that actually does to you.
How
Um,
did how
I
did
don't
the
know, is it
time work
an
for you
honor
guys?
at all, or
Um,
so, it was tough. It's kinda different for everything, but, generally, they'd give you, like, 20 minutes, and then sometimes that included your setup, so you better be really quick at setting up everything, but, usually it'll be 30 minutes, and that includes your setup, and then you generally don't get a sound check, if they're, like, a really good venue, like, maybe they will let you set up before everyone gets in, and maybe they'll let you do a sound check, but all of that's, like, reserved for the main band, so they sound check them, they have all their gear set up, and then it's up to you to get everything set up, but you just have 30 minutes, that's it, and whatever you can fit in there, cool. If not, they'll cut off the power, and, that happens a ton. It just kinda sucks. It's not fun to open up, but, it's kinda how they keep it tight 'cause, most places, like, if you go over in time, you actually have to start paying, like, a whole bunch of extra fees and everything.
yeah.
So, they will literally just cut it off, and they're not gonna get the, headliner to have less time. So, it's, it's strange. They seem to be rigid with it, but, like, one of my worst gigs, the sound guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm having an issue. I need, like, 10 more minutes." So, it's like, "Okay, no problem." So, we're just kinda hanging out at the bar drinking for like the next couple minutes, and then all of a sudden, like the promoter runs up to me and he's like, this is part of your time, right?" It's like, okay. So yeah, then we just had to like run up on stage and just play for everyone.
Do an
It's
acoustic
like things
set
like
real
that.
quick.
Yeah. So like it really sucks. And then a lot of the times, they try to make it quicker with the changeover. So they'll tell you you can't bring your amp, you can only bring your guitar and your effects, and then we're using a backline that everyone's using. Oftentimes that sucks, and it's
Mm,
not like a, especially if you're like metal, a lot of times it's not like a super high gain amp, it's kind of more of like a rock amp. So, it can be difficult, but you just kinda have to deal with it. Odds are if it's something like that, the crowd's not there for you, they have no idea who you are, so it's just a
mm.
chance to get up in front of people. So, it's nice, but, it sucks at the same time.
Music, it seems like more has to align for things to work. Because I mean, even if you're in the smallest of bands, I've seen 2 2 people bands where, like, you still have to you're depending on somebody else, and then if you're not performing acoustic, there's all these other elements that you have to rely on, and I mean, shit, our stream, our our amp blew on us. Um,
Yeah, and that happens more than you'd think. It's weird, but oftentimes like the power on the stages is just wonky, and it kills gear. I don't know why, but they tend to
oh,
have like surges. It's just not good. Uh,
yeah, that's
yeah.
and they don't insure it, I'm almost
Oh no,
positive. Of course not,
no, no.
no.
Everything's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all on you, and it's your fault if somehow it gets fried.
Ugh.
But yeah, and then that's tough too because there have been times where like you're using the back line or whatever is what they call it, so everyone's using the same thing, and then it fries. So what exactly do you do?
Hmm.
Yeah, it just leaves for like panic, and then yeah, usually it's fun. Like usually it's more things like broken strings, and it just has to take time. And that was actually where I learned to do like a bit of like crowd work, if you will. We just had a guitarist that would always break strings, so it's you got to fill like 3 minutes while he's changing it out. So that was fun. So that kind of let me think like, hey, maybe I could do some open mics, and I'm not good at that. So yeah,
You
that led
never
to me
know.
trying to, and well, I could have guessed, but yeah, I just I'm in awe of what comedians do. I just don't think I could take that brutality. Like I don't know, it's awesome to have a whole band that you can kind of lean back on. It's like no, 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 we didn't fail because of me. Just the drummer was off or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know. That would be a lot of pressure on you.
I've heard that so many times from musicians where they've been like, I couldn't imagine doing what you're doing, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you can. Like you're depending on other people to do their job. Like your trust is in so much else going right, let alone at the same time and all this other stuff. Comedy, two things can happen. They laugh, they don't. That's really it. I mean, it's I don't mean to simplify it, but have you ever had time stripped from you?
Yes. So that particular gig was like one of our worst ones. So we were we were opening for kind of a bigger band that was coming through the town, but it was supposed to be like our album release party, if you will. So we were like the middle act, but something happened with like the soundboard. So the audio guy was like, okay, I need like 10 minutes. Apparently that came out of our set because, yeah, if anyone stayed any longer, then the promoter would actually have to pay the venue more and pay like
Mm.
their staff more. So, yeah, just that technical error apparently came out of our set, which we were going to play the album in full. Which the fun thing is it is, like, one song, but, yeah, so, yeah, you just, kinda start playing, and then, yeah, when the promoter if they're a real dick, they'll just cut off the entire sound, which, did happen to us at, like, our album release thing. Yeah, it wasn't great, it didn't make us feel that good, but, then we got to see a really good band play after us, so that was, pretty awesome, but, yeah, it just kinda sucks.
What a
I
weird
guess it'd
silver
be like the
lining.
ultimate, yeah, but I mean, I guess it'd be the ultimate, like, you get the light or whatever, because like, they give the comedians the light when you've gone over. Do they ever just cut off the mic? Or I suppose they would have that option as well.
Yeah, I've heard horror stories about some bigger name comedians that have been banned from clubs for doing 3 times what their stage time was allotted. There's this myth, I mean, East Coast, West Coast comedians, I don't wanna get it be all like 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 Biggie and Tupac or anything, but there's this rumor that Eddie Griffith got banned
I was
from
gonna literally say, I've heard one comedian and, yeah, it was actually Eddie Griffith.
2.5
So if
hours when he was supposed to do
That's what I was gonna
45.
say, wasn't it? Yes, so that is the same story that I've heard. So that is, kinda crazy because I don't know where I heard that, but I'd always kinda heard, and supposedly he did it to kinda spite the other acts as well because somebody had
Oh,
given him crap
fuck
about him going
you.
over.
Oh, man, if
So
I
I
was
don't
the
know,
MC waiting for him to finish, I'd be like, "You motherfucker, I can't go home until you're done."
and I also don't know if it's true, but supposedly that guy's got, like, an amazing writer as well as to, like, what you have to provide him pre-show before he'd ever actually, like that has to be
Oh,
backstage in his,
rider.
dressing room before.
What
Yeah.
what Gray is talking about is spelled Rider. It's, when acts get to a certain point where, they're being sought after, you get to have a rider, which is what you need to perform at the
Mhm.
club. So, I'm sorry, I just wanted to Just in case somebody
Yeah,
thought you
just
meant right
supposedly
turn.
his included, like, like, sneakers and everything, and it's like, "Really? Like, you need a new pair of kicks, like, every time you're going on stage? Okay." I mean, like, that would be awesome. Like, in music, like, you hear, like, the people who needed, like, the, bowl of, like, all brown M&Ms or all green M&Ms or whatever, which
Mhm.
supposedly, they threw that in there because, they had certain requirements for, like, their electrical, and oftentimes people weren't, like, reading the requirements, so they had, like, numerous gear damage and everything. So they just knew instantly, like, if they go to their dressing room and see, like, that bowl of, particular
Huh.
colored M&Ms, they actually read it, if not. But supposedly that wasn't the case for Eddie Griffin, and I don't know that that's, necessarily true. It was just a rumor that I heard, but, I don't know. I hear that guy's just a delight to, deal with,
Yeah.
which is kinda sad 'cause, some of his bits are really funny. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some of his shorter stuff, much shorter than 2.5 hours, mind you, I've seen is quite good. Um, I
And it
th
kinda makes me wonder
the
because, like, you've heard, like, Chappelle going on like, he has the world record or did for, like, the longest time for, like, the longest set. Hopefully, there weren't, like, other people that were supposed to perform after him or whatever. Like, hopefully, people knew
dude,
going in that, like, that was gonna be, like, a
I hope he was the closer. Like, if he was at a showcase and there's, like, 6 people that were supposed to go up after him, like, what the fuck? I would have been furious.
For sure. Ah, that would be crazy. Yeah, I couldn't imagine, like, getting bumped or anything like that in, music. They seem to care about the headliner and that's it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just, kinda crazy with the Eddie Griffith thing. Like, I don't know if, yeah, again, maybe he was the headliner, but even then, I would have to think the venue would shut him down at some point, but
From what
maybe
I
I'm wrong.
understood, I think it was the store, the Comedy Store, and I from what I understand, I
Mhm.
think he was never asked back. Um,
Ah, that's a shame.
doing nearly 4 times as long as you were allotted. Um, there there was a time, I think I told you this, if not on our discussion on your channel, I might have said it after we were live, but when I was doing MC work, and when I had my break and then came back, I still had representation, so I was doing MC work again. And MC work, you do maybe 10 minutes up front, 3 to 5 in the middle, and as tight as possible. If not, just saying goodnight, everybody. It all depends. The situation all depends. And I was trying to get my footing back, and it was like maybe my 3rd or 4th show back, and I really don't like MCs, like MC not excuse me, not MCs. I don't like doing MC work because, you know, the MC is supposed to be like, "Is anybody celebrating anything tonight?" And but, like, I don't care. I am a comedy
Well, I mean,
whore.
like, it's kinda that built-in crowd work. Like, I don't know.
But
But
it
sorry,
it
what
has
so
nothing
wouldn't
to
the
do with
crowd
my
more
act.
like the
Like
fair enough, fair
listen,
enough.
I just want you to laugh. It just you can come all over my face. That's it. That's all. Like that's it. I'm your comedy whore. I don't care if it's your birthday. I don't care what. I don't want to know you. I just want to make you laugh. That's it. And some of it was just like, hey, let's hear it for so and so's birthday. And there was one of these gigs where a guy pulled me aside, uh, a manager for the club, and he said, "I need you to do a tight 2 minutes." And I'm like, two? And he goes, "Yeah, the mayor's
What
daughter."
tight to?
A tight two. So you want me to do a fifth of what I open with and do it tight? Um, and he's like, "Yeah, the mayor's daughter is here and she wants to sing." And so he just gave the mayor's daughter, who was like 11, stage time, and I'm like, "How the what type of act am I supposed to do if I'm
Yeah.
opening for a
What's the
kid?"
tight to open for, like, a 12-year-old? That's interesting.
Who's gonna
Huh.
sing? Like, I was like, yeah, let's hear it for." I don't know, were you guys expecting a 12-year-old to sing tonight? Because I wasn't, so that's great. Anyway, back to porn. Like, I'm not that act. Like, that was another thing about MC work that I just couldn't stand it because I wasn't a chameleon so much because it was just like, I have my act, I'd like to hone it and whatever. Um, but MC work, you really have to, be a good transitional type performer, and I'm just not that. I can't bullshit you. If it kind of got me in trouble with certain groups where like I'm antisocial first of all. And if I thought the performers sucked, I couldn't be like, "All right, guys, did you enjoy that?" Like
You
because
were wrong, everyone.
yeah,
They deserved more.
because I didn't.
Yeah. That is, tough. Yeah, and then you still have to keep up enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you wouldn't have to, but the acts would probably hate you if you, do just trash them, but I suppose you could. I guess I have seen the MC kinda go after, somebody who failed, but it's generally more like an open mic type deal or more of like a short set type deal. It definitely wasn't like, the actual MC just, like, mocking the feature or whatever. That would be interesting.
I
I don't know if you'd ever be asked to do that again.
in my infamous when I got banned from performing in state college, this all happened in the same weekend. Um,
You got canceled?
yeah, I got canceled canceling.
You did it before it was cool.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
did it before. I think I'm not even sure if Twitter existed yet. Um, I was booked and I made fun of the town state college. I might have told you this. If I did, I forget. I apologize.
No.
It was one of those things that, like, if people looked into me, they'd be like, "You're banned from state college? What the hell did you do?" And the story just does not live up to the hype. Back then, like you said, canceled. Back then, it was like kind of cool, and you can get an idea of what you were getting. Like, oh, he's banned from performing in state college. What the hell did he do? And it was simply I asked them, so you guys named this city after a facility, and like Penn State, they're like, oh, they're so ridiculously rah-rah about their fucking football team in college and all that shit. And they were like, "Yeah, woohoo." And again, I was the MC, so they expected me to like, you know, take their pants down and suck them off, but I was like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." And I said, "There's no supermarket New York. You don't name a town after a facility." And some people were laughing, like, some people kinda murmured, but it wasn't like the joke just fell. It it just didn't people take that town way too seriously. And this is before, that football coach was indicted for doing much worse things than making fun of State College, that's for sure. And it was
Wonder if he's welcome back there if he got kicked out too.
yeah, every time he goes
I have
back, he's like,
questions.
"I just love being in State College, yeah!"
Well, he didn't mock the name,
Yeah.
so, hmm.
So, eh, usually in between the feature and the headliner, you're just kind of the MC's job is to just kinda, you know, maybe tell one joke and then bring the guy up, the headliner. What I did was I had my best laugh of the night in my one little line, and it's like heroin. Like, I don't know how to explain it to anybody. I mean, it's like you said, people singing along to your choruses and things like that. When you have something that feels good, you can't just be like, "Okay, and
Mhm.
and now I'm gonna stop because, you know, I have to follow my duty." I did another minute or 2, and the headliner was pissed, and his first 10 minutes, he just laid into me, and, like, he was roasting me for this crowd, and it was just like, "What the fuck, dude? I warmed them up for you, if anything. They were really digging the material, so, like, what I'm sorry you had to stand there and wait for 2 minutes. Was that not in your rider? I apologize." It was just so weird, and that was, they sent me home that night, and, that was it. I got paid for Friday and Saturday. That's another rare thing, getting paid for a show where you're not there, especially as an MC. I did my Friday show and then was sent home for the Saturday, and that was it. That was the end of me performing at a chain of clubs that is, well, this one club located in State College, which is really, again, it looked better on the, the resume, so to speak. And now in the age of canceling, it's far less. People like, what do you mean? What do you mean banned? What did you do? Do you have to register with this? Oh, no, 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 no. So like,
That I mean, that's interesting though. Like, I guess I never would have thought of, getting banned from a chain of clubs because I don't know.
no, no,
Like
I wasn't a
as a
chain.
musician, like there's
It was
rarely
a,
ever like chain.
if you're familiar with certain comedy clubs in that part
Mhm.
of town in Pennsylvania, you'll know. I don't want to name it because I'm not banned
It
from
makes
other
sense.
locations. So I just can't eat at
Yet
this
there's still
McDonald's.
time.
Give it time. Which kind of is a nice little segue. I have a bit of a would you rather question. Um,
No. Yes.
would you rather open for an act that you know sucks, or have an act that you know sucks open for you?
Both of those suck. I've
Yeah,
definitely
the shitty act
done both of
is
those.
attached at the hip with you no matter
Yeah,
what.
I think I I think I'd rather open for a bad act. It always looks better if you can kind of overshadow the headliner or whatever. Where if you just have a bad act, like, right before you, it just kills the energy in the
Mm.
room, like, it sometimes clears the room, it's like, "Oh, okay, so everyone's going to smoke a cigarette right now? Like, really? Like, okay." Um, but yeah, we've definitely done that before, we opened for this one band who I don't know if they thought they were like Gigi Allen or something, but they decided that they needed to, like, spray the crowd with a whole bunch of, random stuff. I guess it was kinda more like ICP type deal where they throw the soda on everybody. Um,
Ugh.
Nobody dug that, and they basically cleared the entire room, and, yeah, we basically then started playing to nobody, and, it took until about the end of our set for people to, like, finally file back in. That was just horrible. So, I guess I'd prefer the, opening for a bad band and, having the good band in front of us so that we're doing a good job, everyone's still in the room, and then they can leave once we're done. I guess that's where I'd go with it, but, what about you?
Yeah.
Is it different in comedy?
No, I mean, I guess I agree with you, and I would answer the same thing because people who on their ride home, if anything, it may have you stick out a bit more. Like, oh man, everything was good,
Mhm.
and like that guy before, you know, fucking idiot, with the soda. Everything was good until that act, but yeah, there's this weird. I, I've never heard it presented in that way, like for musicians. Like, yeah, they can clear a room out. I forget that
It's a little
it's
harder to walk the crowd because they generally, like, paid something to see the headliner, so, they're coming
they.
but, yeah, it can be done. Yeah, I've had it happen right before we went on.
Oh
It's a little bit rarer, but, yeah, it is, it's bad, for sure, but generally, they'll at least come back. I don't know, when you walk a room, they generally don't come back for, like, the next comedian, do they?
no, usually they're walking out during the MC. Usually, if the act sucks,
Yeah, which
the
is
MC is the okay. Let's get up and piss everybody at the same time kind of deal. Um, So,
Mhm.
yeah, people paid, they paid their 2 drink minimum, their seats. It's far more a comfortable environment a comedy club is than A metal show,
Well,
certainly. Just
well, I mean, like, at least then though, like, there's an operating bar and people, like, leave and go, like, deal with that, but, like, I don't know, how do you deal with, like, the check spot or whatever? Like, you're trying to get, like, the crowd, to pay attention, and they're all, like, saying, like, "No, I didn't actually have 3 drinks, I had" like, everyone's gotta, like, settle
that
up.
is
I don't know, how does that work at all?
that
Like,
that
that
is
seems like
you
that's the worst spot.
that is usually the spot right before the headliner goes up, which is another
Mm,
reason why it was so foreign to me to have you know, my my transition bit work and kill. So, like, I don't know, like, it was just so weird for him to be so bothered about it. It was just like, dude, they're passing checks around. Your first 2 minutes are they're gonna miss it anyway. I did you I whatever, but normally the check spot is in between the feature and the headliner. And in the city during or other bigger clubs where they do like showcases, from what I understand, Joe Rogan has brought that mentality to um what is it?
the mothership?
The mothership in
Or
Texas where it's not a headliner unless it's him. It's
mm,
more of a you're going to see 10 comedians tonight, not 3. So he's that type of mentality is starting to spread. But um the check spot in those instances is kind of a free for all, but in a normal feature headliner bit, it's between the feature and the headliner. But um in a music act, it's they're what they paid, they're in, that's it, right? There's no real
yeah.
hmm,
No, like, they might go outside to smoke or something, but they're coming back in, and, yeah, there is no, like, stop like that, like, you might have to settle up if they take your card, like, at the end of the night or whatever, but, generally, no, they just deal with the transaction in the back, which is
hmm.
interesting. I just could not imagine that check spot. I just couldn't imagine anybody, actually, paying attention when that all happens. Um, I noticed, Simon asking, "What's the band name?" So there's been quite a few. Yeah, I think everything's been scrubbed off the internet of us. We had like MySpace sites and everything, but yeah, they were all kind of wiped out. So I think I'm cool saying it, but yeah. So like the first one I was in a punk band called the Clinics, and they just sucked. And then we were the Up to No Goods, and we sucked. And, yeah, there's been like 10 different, names, but, like, probably the most successful one I was in was, sorry, Anahodos, but even then, I don't think you'll be able to find it anywhere. It's all hidden, which is a
Hmm.
good thing 'cause, it was not necessarily great music. But yeah, there's probably about, like, 10 bands I was in at some point.
And you play different musicians, excuse me, different
Yeah,
oh,
usually either guitar, bass, and usually I'd either do vocals or backup vocals, but yeah. I've played tambourine in a band too, so that was fun.
damn, are you serious?
Yes. They were
Okay.
actually a good band, it was only like a short tour, but, yeah, it was fun. But yeah.
Hoax, you were in
Hell
a few
yeah.
hardcore bands? I didn't know that. Hoax is based
That's
out of,
awesome, man.
Northwestern New York.
Oh,
So,
really cool.
yeah,
He probably knows a lot of the bands that I was super into then.
okay,
That is really cool.
it's interesting.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
one that was signed
And I
to
loved
Victory
Victory
Records?
Records back in the day. That was awesome. I was, super into a lot of the Victory ones back in the day.
Um, alright, so we'll do a little nightmare gig. I mean, we kinda went
Ooh.
over it. What
I think I've got more. It's a never-ending supply. Like, every few minutes, it's like another horrible one kinda pops up in the back of my mind. Yeah, but I'd
before
be interested in some of yours.
oh, before you took the stage, what would you have imagined the worst? like nightmare gig would be?
Um, well, I definitely didn't anticipate this one. I would have thought it would be like, the sound cuts out or like nobody shows up.
Mhm.
That would have been kind of bad, but we've definitely had that happen before. We've played to just the other bands that we're playing with. We've played to uh so they decided not to turn off the game while we're playing, and basically we would come in at the commercial break and then we'd get a play and then they would cut the sound the second that the game came back on. I didn't anticipate that type of gig. That was interesting. And then, yeah, also, we just had the sound like cut in the middle of one, and basically we were told like, no, you guys are done. So those are kind of hell gigs that I kind of anticipated. The worst one though, so we would kind of do a tour. Like you have certain like venues that are booked, so you need to get like from here to here, but we try and like fill in between. And, yeah, we got invited to this one house party, and it's like, "Yeah, sure." Like, "Okay, yeah, it's right on the way. Yeah, let's play a house party." So, I don't know, we're all, like, 22 or something like that. Like, we're legal age, so, yeah, we assume it's gonna be like, a frat party, like a house party type deal. And we get there and everyone's, like, 13. It was super strange, super awkward, and then we weren't even the headliners in it, and we weren't, like, the second like, I think there was, like, 5 bands, and we were, like, number 3 or something like that, so it was, pretty horrible. I
Middling a
didn't
middle
anticipate
school show.
that. Yes. So that was pretty bad. I think that's the one that kinda sticks out, like, this isn't what I anticipated. I didn't think I would drive out, like, 4 hours to do this, but, yeah, here we are. So I think that's probably the worst one in my mind. I just knew we should have walked away, but apparently we didn't. We wanted to play that house party. So, yeah, and it did not go well. Uh, we were not their type of band.
Yeah.
They
See,
wanted more, actual emo.
as much as Almost Famous, that I'm a Golden God scene, they make it seem like, everything movies make everything seem so much better than they actually are. Like, I love Almost Famous, and as somebody who's never plucked a chord in my life, it's, it makes me.
No, it's an awesome flick.
It is. I just I bet you certainly have a lot more "This is bullshit" moments than I do.
No, well, yes, I definitely have a lot of moments of this is bullshit, but I don't know. I don't think I ever made it to that level or anything to be able to say the accuracy of that. Ours was much worse and much lower. Yeah, but I don't know. I still enjoy the hell out of that. Uh,
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what would you have thought like your worst hell gig would be before you actually got into it?
I
Like, did you ever anticipate like a school gig or anything like that?
No, no, but I certainly wouldn't have anticipated having to warm a crowd up for a 12-year-old who's gonna sing. That was completely
Fair
out of
enough.
left field.
I didn't anticipate that, and I kinda did the same thing.
We
It was a
kinda
group of
had
them
the
though,
same
so
hell gig. Maybe they're somehow related.
it
Um,
could be.
like, my worst fears were, um this is what my worst fears were as an open micer, was people stealing my shit. That was one of the
Oh,
things, like, because 'cause you're just performing for other comedians, and it's like,
yeah,
mm, you know, some of these people
and
suck.
not necessarily like, scrupulous comedians, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know, I've heard tale of a lot of the, open micers, so,
mhm,
I
yeah,
don't know,
and
that kinda makes you
with
wonder.
Carlos
Out of
Mencia
curiosity,
and
did you have anyone steal any of your yeah, like, that would, freak me out.
I was
'Cause apparently he
accused.
went more than just stealing, like, he would open with your
Y
closer, and it's like,
Yeah,
"What?" Like
that's some horse shit. Like, again,
yeah.
the West Coast is fucking crazy apparently, like, it's like, yeah, I don't think I ever wanna perform in LA, like, I don't think, like, ever.
Yeah.
Um, there there was a joke that I had that was extremely close to a Jay Moore joke that people said, "You know, I've seen Jay Moore do that bit about the ATM machine, you stole that." And I'm like, "What? No, what are you talking about?" And I sought it out and found it, and we do have the same, because there's Braille on the drive-through ATM buttons, and mine kinda ended with, like, we open with the same, you know, irony joke, but he puts a better tag on it, whereas I just kinda mimic somebody, you know, punching the numbers while, you know, not being able to see while driving, where he then has it turn into a tag and another bit about, um he has a better direction that he takes that joke in, and I was like, "Oh, shit, I didn't steal it, but he certainly does it better." Um, so I kinda
And that would be
stopped doing it.
tough. It seems like there's so many, like, premises that would be, like, so, similar, and it's like, who wouldn't kinda think of a premise like that? Like, why is there, like, the braille button in a drive-through? Like, that doesn't exactly make sense. I get that, and I think I would just be fearful that every single premise I'm coming up with was, like, something I've heard somewhere and just in my subconscious put together. Like, I don't know. I think that would be my biggest fear, that I'm not being original. And then I see lightly buttered popcorn as a question for me. First off, thank you for calling me little. But no, I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, but I'm willing to learn. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I,
Oh, no
I don't know.
saying that.
Like it's
Interesting. I think
oh,
DICE has
fair
done due
enough.
diligence. Yep,
Ah,
yep.
there we go.
They no longer exist.
Um, okay, fair enough.
Must have been Patrick,
uh, that makes
you know,
sense.
one of the
He does
Patrick
have a lot of
types.
faults. Mm. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't imagine like ever having confidence that I actually came up with like a particular joke. I would just think that it's everything is probably borrowed from anything I'm saying. And that's kind of an issue with songs too. It's like you
Oh,
just kind of
yeah.
assume that you've heard this riff somewhere, and it's like, okay, can you hear that? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's interesting. I think I would be second guessing myself all the time with that. Um,
Yeah,
how did it kinda resolve? Did you have to just, like, drop the bit or
I tried my best to phase it out, that
Mm,
and once I just kinda, like, got the confidence once Jay Moore kind like, because these people that are doing specials every year, once he kind of phased it out and was onto other
mhm.
stuff, I was like, "Well, I'll take that back," and I just kind of wrote around it. I mean, his ATM at in Las Vegas bit is a way better direction because he says, there is one ATM that no, wait, see, uh, having comedians do other comedians' bits, uh, not on purpose, is a really bad direction to go on. But he had a bit where he found um, a slot machine that always won, but it turns out that it was an ATM machine, and like that's how he somehow wrapped up that bit, and it was interesting.
Eh.
And the direction
Mm.
once I started doing it again, like I just started doing a bunch of ableist jokes, which again just shows how long I've been doing this shit for. Like I talked about why are there handicap parking spaces at the ice skating rink? Like um and the little tag was, do they still have to rent skates? And most of it just you just can't do now and expect to properly get you know booked, or most of that act I certainly wouldn't be able to rejuvenate or anything today. So you know um it's sometimes it's he got there first, he did it on TV first, there's what can I do about it? And
Mhm.
it, think sometimes things happen. I didn't have a Joe Rogan to attack him and you know make
That
some of
was
the
just kind of amazing the way that
yeah.
he, like, really took that on because apparently, it wasn't like it was Joe or any of his friends who were really getting their jokes stolen. It was kinda anybody who was willing to open for Mencia, which is crazy, and then that
Yeah.
cost him his spot in the club as well, which is just odd that, they sided with, Mencia on that one, but I guess he
Yeah.
did kind of confront Mencia on stage, but
I can you imagine
I don't know,
going to
it's,
see comedy and then just see, "Hey, holy shit, the Fear Factor guy is yelling at Carlos Mencia. What the fuck?"
Nowadays, I think I could imagine that. At the time, definitely not. That would have, like, just scared the hell out of me. But I got another question for you. So you were saying before, like, your kinda dream gig. Was your dream gig more like, would it be being like the next Carlin, or would it be more like being on TV? Like, were you kinda shooting for, like, a TV set or not? Like, what would be
Oh,
making it for you?
no, I wanted to open for Carlin, and, like, there I told you about the time I fucked up with Lewis Black.
Oh.
He was in the lobby at Gotham, and he was talking to a female comedian, and she was going up next, and it was a showcase. So, the order there's no headliner, it's just whatever order, whatever. And Lewis Black had done his bit, and, he was talking to somebody, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going on next." And I had no understanding of what the situation was. And I just can't tell when, people are trying to court one another, or if they're friends with one another, and I was like, "Hey, you get to say that Lewis Black opened for you." And he looked at me like I literally shot his family in front of him, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I I've gotta go." It was the worst feeling in the world. He shot me these daggers, like, "Get the fuck out of here, you pipsqueak."
What are you doing? Yeah, yeah, I've definitely put my foot in my mouth quite a few times. Yeah, I tend to, not look who's right behind me when I start talking, and I've kind of done that a few different times, like mocking a club in front of the owner. Yeah, I would not recommend doing that. They generally don't, like that. Yeah, um, I don't know, I'm sure you've had your share of CD clubs that you've, been to, but,
Oh, so
yeah,
a
I guess
night
the owners don't like, hearing that they're seedy in front of, or I
oh,
guess behind your back, I should say. So,
so a nightmare
just a
club.
bit of advice.
Yeah. This place sucks. Alright, so I'm gonna parlay this into 2 because you reminded me of another thing. Um, One gig that I was booked for, again, early in my career, and I later found out why I was booked this gig. It was it wasn't an Applebee's, is what I'll say. But
So it's a Chili's.
well, no, it modeled itself after Applebee's, but it wasn't an Applebee's, and they wanted to have
Huh.
comedians. They had comedy night, and, when I showed up, it was like a one-night show, and I showed up to MC, and when I get there, there's the menu board out in front, and my headshot is in the front, comedy night starring Charles Patterson. I'm like, "What? No, no. No, 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 no. I haven't performed 60 minutes total. What do you mean starring?" And, it turns out that none of the other acts sent their headshots in, and they were just kinda like, "It's a paycheck, I don't give a shit, whatever." And,
But I'm
they're
sure the
like,
other comedians really enjoyed that, seeing that, you're the top billed and everything.
well, they didn't send their headshots in, so, like, they worked it out between each other, and I was like, "Guys, I'll MC. I do not have decent feature material, let alone headliner material. I don't know why my picture's out there. Let it be known that my ego is nowhere remotely close to what this place has done for me." Um, and, it all got worked out, and, I forgot what it was, and it turns out that w they said, "We're not doing MC feature headliner shit. We're just gonna do, whatever you're comfortable with." And it was like comedians booking for comedians. It was really, really odd because somebody wanted to go first because they wanted to leave early, and then I went second, and then somebody else, the headliner did as long as he could. But it was like an Applebee's. And the one thing that you don't associate with comedy is cutlery, like, you know,
Yeah,
knives and
or like
forks.
somebody taking an order.
Yeah,
I don't know. That doesn't seem conducive. Like we were mentioning with like the check spot or whatever. It's like that's notoriously kind of the worst spot. Like nobody's really paying attention to you, but that's going constantly. Like that. On top of that, like who? I don't know. Were the patrons at least aware of it, or was it just I'm going to dinner? Hey, there's happens to be a comedian here.
there was no stage. It's not like everybody kinda, arranged their seat to face where we were. Like, this weird guy who wanted to franchise an Applebee's but didn't, wanted to also have a comedy club, but thought nothing of anything. He just had like a peavey and a mic, and, like, that was really it, and there was no stage. I don't even think he had a mic stand. I think we had to lay the mic, like, on top of the amp when we were done. Like, it was so bootleg, and, it just if you turned the sound off, on the amp, you wouldn't think it was a comedy show because people were enjoying their dinner night. I'm certain at least 75% of the people there didn't expect there to be comedy. They wanted, their fucking penny isle of vodka or whatever the fuck, and they were just there with their families. And it was yet another gig where I was like, I'm not a family act. Why the fuck am I like it's part of paying the dues, like learning how to adapt, but I just wasn't there yet. And then the the fact that my picture was out there and the sign saying starring, and I was like, "Starring? What the no." It was that, it was just a hell gig on every front.
Well,
W
Dice points out that you were on the menu on that location, so that's kind of nice, man. I don't think I've ever been on the menu. You know,
That's fair, that's
uh,
fair.
we can all aspire to that,
5
but
Nights
yeah,
at
that doesn't
Freddy's
sound
stand-up
fun.
edition.
I couldn't imagine that. Like generally, I don't know. So I guess it's probably the genre of music that I was playing. Like it was generally heavier. Like it's not something that you would have for like dinner ambiance. But I don't know. With comedy, sometimes they do like those ambush shows where like it is either like in a restaurant or I
Mhm.
have seen one in a laundromat that was rather interesting. I mean, it
Oh,
was great. It was way more entertaining than like sitting there watching like some muted TV. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know why. I guess it's just time to be in front of people and trying to get an audience to pay attention to you. But damn, those just seem like they would be really hard. The ambush shows, if you will.
yeah,
I don't know.
it's
I couldn't imagine
strange.
that as a musician. I It would be so tough as a comedian.
All but one of my hell gigs have been as an MC, and the one
Hmm.
time that I had a hell gig, I had to book it. Me and a couple of other, nobodies, we had a door deal with the club, and I'm pretty sure you know what a door deal is?
Oh yeah, you get a percentage of it.
Yeah, whatever, you don't get anything. Well, we didn't get anything off the drinks, but whatever the tickets
Yeah, I was
were.
gonna say we've never gotten anything from the bar, but every once in a while we get a percentage of the doors. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's what a door deal is. So, me and a couple of nobodies had a show booked at a club where we got to work on a door deal where it was just like, you know what, we're getting paid. We'll figure it out. And it was kind of like this bootleg Applebee's thing where it was just like, we're not going to do an MC thing. We're just going to kind of somebody go when you're done, segue into the next guy, segue into the next guy. Turns out that there was 4 comedians and 5 people in the audience, and it was
I've done many of those shows.
horrible. Um, and the ticket price was $10. So at the end of the show, if you can call it that, it was just torture. I'm not a booker. Um,
But I mean, that doesn't sound unreasonable. You're paying like $2.50 per comedian. I mean, they might not all be worth it, but it feels decent. But I don't know. Were the four people happy with their choice?
I was one of the 4, first of all. Secondly, we're sitting there waiting for our, you know, $25 check or whatever, and we were trying to figure out what do we do here? Um, and the owner comes over and he slides a $5 bill in the middle of the table, and I was like, uh, there was a table of 5 there. It was like, "Yeah, no, 4 were comped." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding?" And he goes, "Yeah, no, no, no,
Really?
I comped those 4. Would you rather perform for just 1 person?" And I was like, "Well, I'd rather you pay than me perform for nobody. These people gotta drive." Like, $5, you know, even if we just decided to give that $5 to 1 person, it was offensive. It was like the look on his face was just like, "Hey, man, would you rather perform for 1 person?" And it's like, I don't give a fuck, asshole. Like, you comped 80% of the audience? Would you do that for a regular busy
Well, they bought
Saturday?"
more drinks.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, come
uh-huh,
on.
uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be tough. We've definitely had a bunch of gigs like that where it's like, it's probably the people in the audience were just like the, girlfriends of the band or something like that, where it's like there's literally more musicians than there are people in the room. Like, I don't know. That's always a tough one. It's hard to like really get up the energy to, put on a great show when there's like 3 people there. I couldn't imagine that with comedy though. Like you kind of have to feed off the room and get that like laughter.
Yeah,
Like Zoom comedy, it kind of didn't work. It
ugh.
feels like that would be Zoom comedy, but in real life.
But,
Mm.
when you this wasn't MC me, this was me years into playing shitty gigs. So,
Mhm.
there's a certain part where you say, "Fuck it, um, 5 people, let's try some stuff." At least you have some sort of you know what you're getting into. There's even if you kill, you're not really gonna feel it. If you have the greatest performance ever, you're certainly not gonna feel it. That 5 people isn't gonna make it feel like 1,000. So, you just try stuff that you never thought of before. But the fact that the guy comped 4 out of 5 customers, it was like he was just stone faced, like, "Would you rather it be empty?" And I was just like, "You're garbage. Like, you're a fucking garbage human being." I and
Yeah.
I said, "Guys, I obviously am not taking this. I don't I really feel bad." It who should do
But
we
like
wanna flip a
$5 to
coin?
be divided between 4, like that just feels insulting. It's kind of more like, "Hey guys, there no money was made tonight. Goodbye." I don't know. It feels like you'd feel a bit ripped off, but it wouldn't be the same as like, "Do we break this?" Or like, what exactly yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember what the decision made was, but, if you're a human being, you'd be like, "Hey, um, do you guys want some fries or something? Like, I know I can't pay you money, but how about I exchange food or something? Because 'cause you're gonna be paying out of your asshole for the gas to get back home from this middle of nowhere gig." It was just so it just left such a dirty, dirty taste in my mouth, and the fact that he was just so stern with a look on his face, I was like, "Wow, really? Really? Okay, alright."
Uh,
It's just weird how they throw shit
yeah.
on you, like and you don't
for
expect it.
sure.
Like the
And
mayor's
it's
daughter wants to sing. We're at a comedy club. Why is there an 11-year-old here? What the fuck?
why is she let in here? Yeah, uh, that's just interesting. And then I don't know. I guess there is an audience, so maybe they'd want to put her up in front. It just seems weird, but the
D
whole I don't
if
know. I
I
guess I don't
go to
understand. Like, would
if you went
sorry,
to
go
a
right
co
ahead. I
if
keep
you
cutting
went
you
to
off.
a comedy club and the MC said, "Guys, now we have something special. The mayor's daughter is here to sing 'Oh My Darling,' so give it up for," like, would you be like, "What the fuck?" Or would you be like,
Yeah.
"Yes, fucking yes, America's Got Talent. Let's do this."
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing that I've seen in a comedy club, but I don't know if it would be unexpected. And I guess I like the unexpected to a certain degree, but yeah, it's definitely not why you came there. So it
Mm.
seems weird. Yeah. That being said, hey, he's got the mayor coming in there, it sounds like. So good for him. I'm sure the 11-year-old didn't come in there on her own, but maybe I'm wrong. Uh, I
But
could definitely see from his point of view why he'd want to give stage to the mayor's daughter, but yeah, it seems odd and
he
not correct.
what
I don't think any of the crowd is there for that.
on everybody's front, like, if you're the mayor, why would you think, "You know what would be good if my daughter sang at the comedy club?" Like,
Well, I mean, once you have the power, why not? Yeah, it just seems weird. I don't understand a lot of the whole nepotism thing, but you know, uh, it just kind of keeps coming back to that like Mel Brooks quote. It's good to be the king. It seems like perhaps you would have a stage willing to accept your daughter if you are the mayor.
I'd be worried,
I don't
like,
know.
what if they actually took it as, like, an Andy Kaufman thing where it's just like, "Oh, this kid's so terrible, it's
Yeah,
actually a bit," like, and they started laughing.
yeah. I I think that's definitely where my mind would be going. Like,
That'd
oh,
be a
okay, is this a
one-term
bit?
mayor.
Okay, is this?
Is this a
Yeah,
bit with
but but I don't know. That just seems interesting. I guess I understand why it happened, but at the same time, I don't.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I think you got me beat on that. But
you're the mayor, like, have the school have a special talent night and, rig it that way with your nepotism. What the fuck? What a weird. And again, like, again, as an MC, I was handcuffed because I don't have any. I've never performed for anything younger than a college age audience, so I was like, um, yeah, I've got nothing.
I'm assuming it wasn't like she didn't bring her classmates or anything. It was still like a normal comedy club audience. So I don't know. That's weird, but I guess I don't know how I would intro that person. You might remember her from middle school. Like I don't know.
You
Like
might
I'm
remember.
assuming she didn't have credits. uh, yeah.
Those of you who appreciate that brand new street light on Elm can thank her good father.
That is rather interesting, though. I don't know. I guess I would never have anticipated that. You'd be the mayor's daughter is performing. You must intro her. Yeah, that. I guess I just never would have thought that would be like a remote possibility. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I
yeah.
guess some of those hell gigs are fun just for like the sheer like I don't know unicorn nature of them. Nobody could have anticipated this, and
Yeah,
it's really a one-off thing.
and
But
it wasn't
yeah,
like, he could have front loaded it too. He front loaded it to, "I need you to do a tight 2." And I was like, "Oh, this sucks." And then he said, "Well, also, by the way," and, like, the tight 2 wasn't the bad news, like, what the
Keep it
fuck?
clean, it's going in a reel. No, that's just weird, like, I don't know. I guess the only thing that would make it more awkward is if they did bring in, like, a crew or something to film it.
Oh.
I don't know, that just I don't know how exactly I would, deal with that particular situation. I don't know. Do you feel like you gave it your all when you were, doing the intro for a 13-year-old?
You keep giving her
I don't
extra
know.
years. I think she was 11. You
Oh,
gave her 12
sorry.
before
I'm
and
thinking of
13
my
now.
hell gig. Yeah.
You're getting
Hey,
closer and closer to my audience,
uh,
but no.
uh,
I
well,
don't
excuse me.
I don't
I think I'm combining it with my hell gig that I think those kids were all like 13, but yes, sorry, yours was 11.
I I
It's a tough time.
hated being an MC. Like I always like I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I always thought of stand up, and as I got older, I certainly was more solidified in the way I felt about it. I pardon. I felt like I had a lot in common with sex workers because,
Oh,
laughter was, endorphins, and I didn't really care, eh, you know, about anybody. I just wanted you to
and
laugh.
you aren't trying to show a bunch of people a good time.
Yeah,
I understand. I can
yeah,
see the similarity.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, listen, uh, you know, however you get to your happy place, as long as I'm the vessel that does that, I'm okay with it. And as long as I get paid, we're cool. But don't ask me to pretend that I give a shit about your fucking birthday or that it's somebody's bachelorette party. By the way, you're fucking idiots for bringing all of your girlfriends to a comedy club for a bachelorette party while your
No, isn't
husband
that
to be
great? Isn't that what everybody wants to do, is they wanna
oh,
sit there and be quiet? Like,
oh my
that's exactly what a party should do.
and it's at least half of the time, the comedy club isn't the first spot. So they're, like, kinda half in the bag, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is torture." Like, I have to be nice to them, and they're heckling. Like, this is awful. Your husband to be has got his face in tits right now that aren't yours. You realize that, right? Just just so we're clear, and you got me telling jokes. Congrats. Great decision making. What? If it makes you feel any better, I'm sure there are people who get off thinking of you. I'm pretty sure of that. Thank you, I guess.
Okay.
All right, so my
So in a way, you're still a, road worker, I
yeah,
guess,
a
it's
worker
just
of
a
the
different
road.
road. Yeah.
A streetwalker.
Ah, sorry, yes, I keep mixing up my terms, yes, that's right.
A performer of the night. Um, so I have gatekeeper time. So were there any acts that you worked with and were shocked at the fact that they never really made it?
There's a few of them. There were definitely some that I thought should have gotten, like, a lot bigger. So I only did a couple of gigs when I was up in Vancouver, but, there was this amazing band that, they got a little bit of traction, but then they just never made it as big as I thought that they would. They were called the Japandroids. They were this weird kinda indie band, but just seeing them, like, I thought for sure, like, "Okay, these guys are gonna be huge, like, they're gonna make it," and they went pretty far, definitely further than, like, any band that I was in, but, they just kinda fell off, and it's sad to think. I thought for sure these guys are gonna be, like, a well-known name, like, they're gonna be, like, the next big thing out of Canada, and, yeah, I was totally wrong. They had, good success, like, better than anything that I was in, but, they deserved more.
Mm.
I think that's my main one. What about you? Was there anyone that you knew of that, like, just they need to be a headliner and somehow tragically they weren't?
Well, what's weird is they've made something of themselves on YouTube. They have a bunch of viral videos. Vic DiBitetto, who another
Oh,
headliner, he was represented by the same uh, people I was. Um, I fucked up his name in emceeing, and he gave me the business, but
I could,
it was much more of a a lighthearted thing. Vic DiBitetto, if you know who he is, he's the New York area personified, and Um, he is really funny, uh, and the fact that, like, he's the guy with the milk and eggs video from, I don't know, 10 years ago. Like, he got a viral video from, I don't know if it was, what was that 6-second thing? Vine? I think he got a
Oh
popular
yeah.
Vine where it was like, "Gotta get the milk and eggs," and, like, that was viral, and I was like, "Oh, he's way better than this." Like, somebody's gotta give him time, and the more these people, Netflix just gives specials away to people, it's just like, I'm really kinda shocked that even with his internet popularity that he hasn't been given, like, at least a half an hour special or something, like, really prominent because he's much more popular a YouTuber than he is a comedian, and it's really kinda shitty because he's a really, really strong act, and I'm not
Mm.
saying that from, somebody who, uh, who, I have no horse in the race, he was he could have done the same thing the guy in, State College did and whatever. But, he lightheartedly made fun of me for fucking his name up. I hated being an MC. I swear I hated being an MC. And I think I just chewed up when I said "di potato." Um,
I was gonna say, with a name like that, I could see, like, don't say potato," and I
yep,
said potato.
yep.
Yeah, I think I could definitely screw up a name like that. Yeah, I don't think that it's not like that's the easiest name ever, but, I don't know, did he was he, like, understanding?
Yeah,
As
oh
a
yeah,
comedian, like, I
yeah.
guess you assume that he's gonna, like, rib you a little bit,
Yeah,
but,
he did,
I don't know.
and once he got off stage, he was fine. He was fine because it was like, comedy normally it's a Friday show and then 2 shows or the other way around, depends. 2 Fridays and a Saturday or a Friday and 2 Saturdays. And the first show I fucked up and the rest were fine. Another one I brought up on your channel, Joe Maffa. Apparently he's still
Mhm.
bouncing around. He's got a very small, internet presence. His name is Joe Moffa, Moffa. Um, and, I enjoyed him. He made me laugh during shitty gigs because we seemed to get booked together for, small crowds. And that's when I didn't mind emceeing because he made me like, he was the perfect personification of how I felt. 'Cause he would just, like, just he a again, when there's like I didn't learn this part yet, but when there's nobody there, that's when you try shit, and that's when you, like, you can kind of express yourself and be a little, uh, angry, performative about your anger, so to speak. And he's like, "I can't believe
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I gotta perform for you fucking people in LaGrange, New York for my, I forget what the terminology was, but it was something like for my ugly wife and my fat kids, just just defeated, like, whatever the hell and I'm, like, in stitches, and these people are like, "What's wrong with LaGrange?"
What the hell? Yeah, sometimes you can have a little bit of outside perspective to help with a joke like that, but that is hilarious. I
Mhm.
I don't know if there's any place that would be okay with that. I mean, obviously, I wanted to say College Station, but that wasn't the one.
State
State
College.
College,
Oh my god, Penn State.
yeah.
Get over yourselves. Your football coach is doing far worse than I am, trust me. And are there on the flip side, are there acts that you've worked with that have made it that you're like, "Really? Them?"
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. So I'm trying to think of like the worst one.
Ghost doesn't
It's
count.
just like crazy. Uh, I wish I had played with them, but oh, it wasn't. What was their name? I think it was. Now I'm probably going to get like called out on this or something, but I think it was soil work. I'm trying to think. Like it was like 20 years ago.
Mm.
Well, it wasn't quite 20 years ago, but something like that, where it's like I had their album, they sounded really cool, and it's like, okay, you guys get to open for. So we would have been like 3 bands ahead of them or something. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like they handpicked us or anything. Like the venue just assigned us with them.
Mhm.
But it's like we were all excited and like we had the record, and it's like, okay, so this is gonna sound amazing. Like we're really looking forward to it. And I don't know if they just got trashed before they went on or what, but
Oh.
they just could not carry a tune. Like the voice was just not there. And like now I'm thinking I actually chose the wrong name. But I can't remember exactly what their name was. But yeah, I did not know how they were like, like this headlining act where it's like literally every band on the bill was better than them and, could actually like make it through a song. And it was so weird. Like their singer was also like a bass player. He would just anytime that he was doing vocals, he just quit playing. Like I don't know if he was like too drunk to play or could just focus on one thing, but it wasn't it sounded nothing like the album, and it was not a good performance. Maybe they were having an off night and we're just some nowhere flyover state, but ugh, they're the number one that comes to mind, but there's been a few other ones that, like, I'm hoping I just caught them on an off night because it
Mm.
sound nothing like the, actual, like, record. They're, like, the main one that kinda comes to mind, but I don't think they made it to, like, super huge. I know that they were on, like, MTV2 Headbanger Ball for, like, a minute, but
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't understand how they had, like, a regularly reoccurring video and, they had a charting album, but they didn't seem like they, had a lot of talent going behind it. But,
Hmm.
what about you, sir? Anyone you wanna throw under the bus? Any headliners you don't think should be?
I'll do 2, and it kinda goes back to what I was talking to before. There was 2 acts that I MC well, 1 act that I MC'd and 1 act that actually, no, they were both showcase gigs. One was upstate New York, one was in the city. One was at Comic Strip Live in the city, and, both times, I happened to be at these comedians' last performance in New York before they went to the West Coast. And, the one that I expected to make something of herself and actually, you know, I don't know, get acting gigs on top of everything was a comedian by the name of Carrie Carabas, who was,
Ooh.
um, good looking and funny. And it wasn't like I don't want to be the guy that said, that talks about the stereotype about how most female comedians tend to joke about like, how shitty men are, but she didn't have stuff like that. She had like solid material and again, sex sells and she wasn't, difficult to look at. And this was her last show. So something, I don't know if it was her agent or something told her, all right, capitalize on everything now, go out to LA, get, an acting agent, whatever, and then apparently, I guess what I found out was she had made her way back to New York, or the East Coast at least, um, in the mid-2010s, and I was like, "Oh, man, that's a shame." I She was really, really funny. And the other act, was in New York City at Comic Strip Live. Carrie Carabas did a show in upstate New York in LaGrange, at a club that I was at quite a bit. And that comedian's name was Nick Swartzen, and
Oh,
they went on right before I did. So Nick Swartzen opened for me, uh, um, and I was like, "Oh, good set." He's like, "Yeah, thanks, man. It's my last one. I'm going out to LA." And I was like, "Oh, good luck." And, well, he's in every single thing Adam Sandler touches now, so there's that, and then he had a Comedy Central
yeah.
special, and then it was just like Wait, wait, the guy that went like, the guy that cooled the room off before I went on stage is a big deal now? Like, that that guy? Oh, okay. It's interesting. And to this day, I
Does it
still
make it hard? I was gonna say, does it make it hard to, like, see anything that he's in or anything that Sandler does, seeing as how he kinda puts him in everything? Yeah?
it doesn't make it hard, it just confuses me where, like, it's not like I feel like I should be in his position, it's just like, what uh, a friend of mine from Denmark used to mock me for having really shitty luck, like, if I was in the car with him, every light we'd hit would turn red, and he'd be like, "Oh, typical CeePo luck," and, like, I don't know how the stars aligned, but I feel like he had the opposite. Like, he was like I forget what the characters' names were in Unbreakable, but he was the Bruce Willis to my Samuel L. Jackson, and, like, everything that could have happened well did for him, and it was just like, "What, really? Nick Swardson? Oh, alright. It's interesting. Okay. Um, Same thing, uh, another one that, although I never questioned his ability to, he was a strong act. He was a really good, he was really good with crowd work, was Daniel Tosh, but he was a middler,
Oh,
and then he went out west, and then Tosh.0 happened, and it was just like, "Guy doesn't have 45 minutes. What the fuck? Alright, I see how it is." I like, but, like, there's some of them where, like, the closest I got to California was Arizona, and that was,
it's not super far.
yeah, and that was, like, a different planet altogether, so I can't
Very much
imagine.
so. Uh,
Yeah, there's
had
some
a lot of, bad gigs in Arizona as well.
there's
Something about the, dry heat out there.
there's some sort of bullshittery that you have to be really good at, and it's another reason why I'm shocked that Bill Burr is so platinum grade, because he's doing all of that, and he's probably the next best thing that we have right now, as opposed to Carlin. And he's, directing movies, he's, doing all the LA comedian shit, like, he's an East Coaster,
Yeah.
like, as far as I'm concerned, he's a biggie, he's not
Yet
Tupac.
somehow he chooses to live in LA,
Yeah.
and, yeah, I mean, he was just in The Mandalorian, like, I don't know, it's kind of awesome. Yeah, I love that too, and I'm glad he's seeing a bunch of success, but,
Of
yeah,
course.
I I don't know, that is, kinda interesting. I would not have thought he would want the LA world, kinda knowing where he's
Yeah,
came from,
a
but,
and it's funny, like, when he's in the Mandalorian, he's like, it's Bill Burr. It's like he's not
yeah.
doing much acting, it's just Bill Burr in the
It's
Mandalorian.
weird. I didn't know that, Boston existed in that world, but okay, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just, his legendary Philadelphia rant, like, that is not what I think
So
of when I
amazing.
think of, like, LA. Like,
Yeah,
LA is just so not that. Like, you can't be edgy in LA. Like, it's just so odd that he's there and he's thriving, and it's just it's fascinating. I mean, it's inspiring to a degree, that's for sure, but I don't know. Did we freeze? Are
I
you
don't think so.
Did you say
I
something?
just,
Because
was
it
quiet.
okay. Um,
Sorry, I was just looking down at my phone. I probably shouldn't have done that.
well, that's happened too. Like, I mean, I've had certain stages of fuck it in my life. Uh, I've had a headliner answer his phone when his son called, like, it was a shitty gig, but he just straight up answered his cell phone and was talking to his son, like, with I mean, granted, it wasn't empty, there was 10 people there, or maybe a little bit more, a little less, but, like,
Did he at
they
least, like, put up, like, a finger? Like, was
no,
it
he was just like,
like
"Yeah, no, I'm stuck here doing this shit," and it was just like, dude, these people didn't get a discount when they still paid the same price. It's the fascinating thing about when people compare m live music, comedy, and movies, or, anything that is pre-recorded versus live acts. If you go to see a movie, you're gonna see the same movie every time.
Mhm.
If you go to see a music act and there's not enough crowd, it's gonna be a different show for you. The same can be said for comedians, and I
I
always thought
bet,
that was
like, I
fascinating.
couldn't imagine, like I don't know, I'm sure you've, tried to do comedy for a dead room, like, I don't know, like, I could not imagine just what that's like, there is something to the energy in that actual room, like, it feels like the comedian is actually, like, feeding off it.
Mm.
I don't know, I feel like with a guitar, you can kind of start setting the mood in the room, it feels like it would be much easier to, like, get the energy going. I don't know how you do that, like, with a like, if you have somebody who literally just, like, walked half the room and nobody else is into it anymore, like, I don't know how you just go from there, like,
Well
I don't know, it's gonna
well, you brought up, you know, earlier, it it's a little bit easier, with the guitar to kind of create some sort of buzz, so to speak, not literally or whatever, but, if the act that was up before you walked to the room or half the room, whatever, like, does it deflate you at all? Is there anything that you can do that just kinda it's like, "Alright, fuck."
No, like, you're still kind of in that same you're kinda screwed.
Ah.
That's why yeah, you do hope that, someone's gonna be similar energy or at least, is not going to overshadow you, but is not going to, like, completely underwhelm everyone to the point of walking the room. It's tough. We've definitely had people open for us that kinda did both, and, it also sucks when they just completely blow you away, and then it's like, "Okay, well, we're having an off night, and this is not going well." Yeah, it doesn't look good when the opener is, like, the best on the entire bill.
Uh,
But yeah, I couldn't imagine getting the room back, like, in comedy because there is no kind of just reset and, "Okay, we're just gonna forget that that guy, like, ever came up here and, you know, walked half the room."
mm.
I don't know, that's just like, I feel like it would be much tougher in your shoes, but, maybe I'm wrong. Uh, I don't
Well,
know, it just feels like, anytime you've got, like, a good drummer, you can kinda get people's interest coming back in, but yeah, you don't really have that when it's just a dude and a mic.
yeah, yeah, I guess. I I don't know. I think there's acts that bring theatric I mean, I mentioned Ghosts as like a joke, but, like, when you see all these dudes who come out, and one of them's dressed like a fucking pope, you're like, "Wait, what the fuck's going on here?" Even if you don't know who they are, you're like, "What?" Did somebody hand me shrooms or something? Because I don't know if I'm at the same concert I was 5 minutes ago. That there's at least like I remember when like Slipknot and Mushroomhead, like it was a thing. Mudvayne, like yeah, you had to be like a
Mhm.
gimmick to, and it was just like, really?
And we played with some really gimmicky people. Like, yes, it seems like you could get a crowd started that way, but if you do it wrong, you can also really lose the crowd. I remember like we opened for this one band. We were super excited that I can't even remember their name now. I'm probably gonna say the wrong one, but it was a black metal band. They were actually from like Norway, so it's like okay, these guys are like legit, like they're authentic. And what they decided to do is they were doing a US tour.
Mhm.
They apparently bought goat heads to start it off, and then they would put them on spikes on the side of the stage, and they did the exact same goat heads the entire tour. and we were towards the end of the tour, and it was really bad.
Mm.
It was god awful. I have never smelled anything worse than that, but, yeah, they just cleared out the entire venue, like, the second they brought their goat heads out and put them on the side of the stage. Um, they looked kinda cool in their makeup and everything, but god, like, the additional things that they brought in, like the props, it was too much. But yeah, those dudes were legit, and they were way more metal than, like, the rest of the crowd 'cause, we all left. It was
So
just too much to handle.
you toured
I
with
couldn't imagine
Mayhem.
driving
That's
in a
cool.
van with that.
That's cool.
They were kinda like Mayhem Jr., but definitely based on that. Their face paint was almost spot on to Mayhem.
Aren't they all just kind of like
Ugh.
the white with the fucking Ace
Yeah,
Frehley
it's
light?
kinda like yeah, slightly less comical Kiss. Yeah, they're all in that same vein, but, and I wish I could remember their name. I'm probably just gonna throw another black metal band under the bus if I try and come up with
No
it, but
matter what it is,
they
you
were
can't
legit. I
read.
thought they were gonna yeah, I wish I could remember that, like, weird, random, logo that is illegible, unreadable?
It
I don't
looks
know.
like
I'm
15
not used to the
twigs
ring.
just pressed together. That's what it looks like. That's the name of the band.
Well, that's how you know they're legit. Like, they don't care if you know their name. They just you should recognize that weird symbol. It's kinda like an ink blot test. Um, yeah, it's interesting for sure. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That was just crazy. I've never seen a venue emptied like that,
Goat's
and,
heads.
yeah, it didn't go
Oh,
well. I
that's
mean, it
got
was
to be
pretty
like
metal,
a
but,
FDA. Yeah, no, pretty metal, I guess, but like an
I
FDA
have no
thing or
clue, and I don't know how
something.
you'd procure that. Like, if I was gonna go tour a country, I don't know where I'd be like, "Okay, well, I need goat's head at the start of this tour, so let's line up some goats." That is just crazy. I have no idea how they pulled that off or why they chose to. I think I'd be investing in, like, some fake goat heads, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'm not authentic.
I guess I don't know. Maybe I should save this for a less fun thing, but um, there have been acts that have had some tragedy. Um,
Mm.
and I'll be cryptic and tell you what my first thought was because I had a performance on February 20th, 2003, I believe was the date. And I remember when I got home from that gig, the news was talking about that there was a fire at um,
Ooh.
a music venue. And
Yeah.
turns out a lot of people passed. And I was like, oh, imagine going to see
I'm
Great White
assuming you I was gonna
and
say it was the Great White Fire, wasn't it? It's
yeah,
just so tragic that apparently they had, like, giant pyrotechnics and the room was not that big.
and it was, like,
That's an
covered with
issue.
just fucking flammable shit. It took seconds. Like, if
Is
it I don't know if they
most
have the
bars
video
kind of
anymore.
are. I never saw it, but I know it was around for a minute, but, I'm sure it's still out there. Like, that's the thing with the
Yeah.
internet. You can't get rid of anything, but, luckily, I never dealt with, like, any tragedy like that, not personally. We did play, like, one club where a fire alarm got pulled, so
Hmm.
we did have to go outside, but I don't know. It was nothing major. I think somebody just pulled the alarm or something, but yeah, I luckily, like, knock on wood, I haven't, actually, dealt with anything like that, but I know there were a couple bands that we were, like, friends with who, like, went on tour, and they did, like, get in a car wreck during the or, wrecked a van during the I think luckily, we
Mm.
didn't know anybody that got, like, seriously injured or anything like that, but it's kind of like, okay, well, all their gear is gone now, their van is gone, they're kinda starting over from square one, so
Yeah.
these guys are now going back to work, and they're gonna build up their, inventory again before they'll get to tour again. Um, Sadly, oftentimes that's kinda like the end of the band. Like, I don't know, do they wanna start back over from 0?
Do
So I don't know, but luckily, I've never been involved in a real tragedy like that. Like, that great white thing is just horrible.
ca do you to kinda put a spin on it, I mean, I really hope that some of those people were, like, really, really big fans because I remember when I first saw it on the news,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, of all the bands to see and pay the ultimate sacrifice for. I hope a lot of people were like really, not like, hey, for shits and giggles, let's go
Yeah, they're
see.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope
Is
so as
there a?
well.
I mean, if Carlin had pyrotechnics, and I died at one of his shows, I'd be like, you know what, that's all right. Is there an act that you would, you know, if something happened that you wouldn't mind, you know?
I think there's a ton of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
like, yeah, so kinda recently, I saw, like, Queens of the Stone Age, live. They were really awesome, but they
Mm.
had more pyrotechnics going and stuff. I don't know, if I were to just kinda check out in the middle of that show, I wouldn't have minded so much. There's
Check
been a
out.
few other ones as well. Well, if a tragedy were to occur, if the stage were to follow me, yeah, I had a good run. Um, yeah, and, there's a bunch of other ones, like, one of the best shows I ever saw was, sorry, Death from Above 1979. If I saw those guys, yeah, I would totally be down, checking out at one of their concerts.
Mm.
I think there's a bunch of them that, I've seen that I'd be willing to go down with the ship.
It's
It would definitely suck if it was, like, the whole, like, Rolling Stones, like, Hell's Angels
Altamont,
thing,
yeah.
like,
It's
yeah,
weird that it happens at music
preferably not
venues
that,
more
but
than I mean,
yeah.
I've heard of comedians just snapping and shooting a heckler or some shit, like, I've heard of that, but,
Well,
nothing.
yeah, I haven't heard, like, an actual musician doing that. I guess
Yeah.
there's been, like,
Well,
a few musicians who have, like,
Dimebag
assaulted
Darrell.
the crowd with, like, guitars and stuff. I was gonna
Mm,
say then there is, Dimebag where, yeah, we happened to be playing a show, like, the night after that happened, and,
mm.
yeah, the guys in front of us dedicated their set to the guy that shot Dimebag, so I just kept talking, like,
Wait,
a
what?
bunch of shit about them. Yeah, they were like this straight edge band. They
Wait,
hated him because, his name was Dimebag. So,
they
yeah, they were
dedicated
trying to
the
be controversial at the time. Yeah, to the
Oh,
actual, like, perpetrator of the crime, to the guy that shot him. So,
that's fucked.
that kinda sent me over the edge. So I was talking shit to a bunch of them, and then just I got my ass jumped after that show. Like, there was just, like, 10 of them. My nose, that was the first time it got shattered, and,
Mm.
yeah, it was, really painful. The first dude that hit me had, like, one of those rings that goes across, like, 4 fingers, so, like, it says a word, but it's essentially, brass knuckles.
I'm a
That
bitch.
really sucked. I mean,
Edge
I
lord.
tried to read, like, the imprints on my nose. I couldn't tell exactly what it was. It was coming at me fast, but, yeah, it just sucked. So, yeah, I kinda not only did I like Pantera and, like, Dimebag Darrell, I had
Who
actually just seen him, like, a couple weeks before. He was in Damage Plan, was their newer band,
Yep. I think
the one that
it's
he was touring with at the
yep,
time,
yep. Like,
and then,
what
yeah, like,
drugs are
2
worth
weeks later, that
dying for?
happened.
Like, really? What the fuck?
I think the dude was, like, former military and just, like, went crazy, if I remember right, but, he had some paranoid thoughts that, apparently it was Dimebag's fault that Pantera broke up,
Oh, no,
so
yeah, the guy who
I don't know.
who
Yeah, who did that?
unalived him, but, the band that decided to, like,
Oh,
be
I have no idea, like,
edgelords about it,
I think
like,
they were
what?
just trying to be edgy,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, we don't like metal, and especially not those guys, they're into, like, drinking and drugs, and, we're not into that thing,
Ugh,
so, yeah, it was just kind of, horrible, and, yeah, it just kinda punctuates that tragedy a little bit more in my
fucking
brain,
A. Anyway,
uh,
here's Wonderwall. Just,
yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. But,
Uh,
yeah, and I do remember those guys' name, and I'm glad that they never made it anywhere. They did not
hey.
make it out of my hometown.
Oh,
So,
the
there is,
edgy straight
some
edge
good that came from that.
didn't prevail. So we were talking 2 nights ago about album royalties, and that's something that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we a comedian, well, I don't have any sort of anything, but you were telling me about how fucked that situation is with bands. Did you want to
Royalties just
re
suck. Sure, yeah, I could kind of, go into some of that. Like, I imagine it would be similar for comedians because you owe the label, like, the label is the one who pays for the recording, so you have to pay them back. Everything that the label gives you is recoupable, and then you pay that back from a percentage of the actual sales. I wish I actually did what I said I'd do and actually like wrote down the numbers, like went through my notes.
It's not
But
that bad.
it's just kind of crazy. Like with a boilerplate contract, like you end up making like pennies on the actual album, like, and that's
Mm.
how you have to pay everything back. And if like you get a limo for the premiere, or if you get a video or something, that's all recoupable as well. You have to pay that back
Oh,
through your royalties. But it just sucks. They in a boilerplate contract, so like any no name band that can't really negotiate anything, essentially, like, if an album is sold for, like, $20, you get, like, 80 cents off of each one to go ahead and pay back your entire recording debt, and they also use that really fun math that, makes it look like
oh.
there was no actual
Hollywood math.
product, there's or
Yeah.
profit. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's just a whole bunch of new expenses in there, so you're really not gonna make money off of that, but it's just kinda crazy. They just have a whole bunch of like different things in there. Like new technology is one of them where they take off 10%. So CDs, even though it's something that's been around for like 50 years now, it's still a new technology. So you
Yeah,
lose 10% off of
sure.
anything like that. And then there's also breakables, which goes back to when
Fuck.
records were actually made of lacquer. Like we've never seen a lacquer record. Everything that we've ever seen is vinyl, but they used to transport them on trucks, and about 10% would get broken when they transported these lacquer records. So that's still in there right now. You still have a
And
10% breakage.
Mitch over here did the math, and there was about 50,000 trucks that delivered, so we're gonna have to pay for all of their
Yeah,
tires too, so
it's just it's horrible, and they just find like ways to screw you.
of
So
course.
until you're big enough that you can actually like get a customized contract and you can actually like negotiate for things, like you're just gonna get screwed. So it sucks. Like most of the bands that actually did have like records and went through a label, they're probably not making much on royalties. Like it's generally the later records in their catalog where they actually are able to negotiate for some sort of actual deal. I have no clue how it would work with comedians, but I'm sure it would be much of the same since most comedians, like they don't actually pay to, make their own album and then distribute it themselves. Generally, they're going through some label. I'm sure they've got that same type of label
Yeah,
math, and I'm sure they're still doing that same, breakables. And this is new technology. Back when I was, like, into it too, like, somehow you got less money on an MP3 because I don't know why, like, there is no physical thing that they need to print or any but somehow you just get less royalties on an MP3.
dude, the bandwidth is
So
just
it's really
killer.
cool. Yeah. It's just so cool that, like, Spotify is out now, and basically anybody can distribute whatever they want to it. Like, it isn't this huge barrier to entry where it was before. You had to settle for these horrible contracts so that you could hopefully get them to distribute it. So hopefully somebody else might get some eyes on it. But now things have really kind of changed. So I was just wondering, like if you had known, like in the comedy world, like has that really changed everything? It seems like instead of doing, like all the specials, there used to be like HBO specials. I'm trying to think, like there were thousands of them. It seemed like
Yeah,
now those have kind of gone away. Like you still got some Netflix specials, but everybody's gone to YouTube, which
right.
it seems kinda cool, but at the same because it's more obtainable, like, anybody could, just hire a crew, film it, and then put it up on their own channel. Uh, but I guess it would still be hard to kinda get eyes on it. But,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know, it just seems like
strange.
it's really kinda leveled that playing field compared to, there was a huge barrier to entry before.
Comedians, like, I don't first of all, like, it seems like Netflix just gets popular ones and pays them.
Mhm.
Like, that's that. There used to be half an hour specials, there used to be, like, showcase things, evening at the Improv. Comedy got saturated in the late '80s, early '90s. Um and now it seems like podcasts, if you follow a specific person, and again, I've kind of purposely
Well, and
kept
that's the
myself.
thing too. I forgot about podcasts, but every comedian has a podcast now
Yeah,
too, which is, yeah, it's great. I love comedy, but yeah, it feels like there's a lot more saturation, but especially in the podcast world where, I don't know, specials have gone away.
yeah,
It's kinda interesting.
yeah, and it's you just need to record the source. Like, you just need to record the mic, and maybe have another mic or two on the audience, and it shouldn't be that much as far as production is concerned, especially if you're not filming it, um, it is odd that that, like, it's strange that I'm not doing this as, like, some sort of backhanded boast, but, like, I've seen some comedy specials that have been, like, suggested to me that, it's got a couple of dozen thousand views, but the comedian themselves, like, comedians do YouTube channels and, the
Mhm.
comedian has, like, 600 subscribers, and it's like, I can't get 1,000 people to watch my content, but you can't get people to stick with you, but you've got, nearly 100,000 people to watch your special. That's really weird. It's just
That is
backwards. Like, if I had known, I would've I don't think I ever would have gone to film school. It's
so, yeah,
YouTube fucked
everything that
everything up.
I at the same time, they, like, opened so many doors. I agree with you, but, like, I don't know. I have an audio engineering degree. Like, the reason why I went up to Canada was there was, like, 2 schools. One was in the US and Arizona that had, like, an actual working studio and was a school, and then there was one in Vancouver. So I ended up going up there, but if I had waited, like, 3 years, everything that I learned would just be on YouTube. Like,
Mhm.
it was cool. It gave me some connections in Vancouver and everything, but, like, the second that I kind of got deported from there, um, all my connections dried up. So it was like I don't know, I was basically starting over from square one, and I had this information, but I could have gotten that elsewhere and kind of I don't know, it's just different. It feels like it is this double-edged sword that, there's so much information that's on there now and so much connectivity. Like, you could actually hear some know-nothing comedian from, like, the middle of the country or, you could get a guest that is, like, a big comedian, a big name now where, I don't know if that would have been possible, like, 10 years ago even. I don't know, it feels like certain doors have opened, but yeah, it seems to have, like, killed a whole bunch of other ones, like all those specials, they seem to all be going to YouTube now. Like, I can't remember the exact number, but when I looked this year, there was I'm just gonna be pulling a fake number out, but it seems
Mm.
like there were hundreds this year alone that were just released directly to YouTube. That is kind of awesome, like, there isn't this huge again, like, barrier of entry where you need to be, like, a subscriber to HBO or, actually buy the album, is kind of cool, but I don't know, does that diminish, like, what an actual special is, like, in the eyes of a comedian? Like, I'm sure you actually, like, there was some gravitas to having, like, an HBO or Showtime special back in
Oh,
the
yeah.
day, but
Yeah.
I don't know, does saying, like, "I have a special on YouTube" mean the same thing now?
I don't think so.
I
Like,
don't know.
I've heard people say, stand-up comedy's dead, and I'm like, "You're crazy." Like, you just don't have a sense of humor is what the problem is. You like, you don't like what comedy is. That's the problem. Stand-up comedy's not dead. Um I would suggest for people to watch for as much as people love George Carlin, watch the documentary, the two-parter that is on Max that, oh, what is his name? Kelly Carlin, his daughter, George Carlin's daughter, had a part in it, and, the Judd Apatow directed it, and
Oh, nice.
it's brilliant. It and they talk about how they kept counting George out, and they kept saying, "Oh, he's yesterday's news. He's yesterday's news." And, he became like mockery for Rick Moranis. Like there was a bit on whatever the hell that Canadian SNL show was.
SCTV.
Yes,
It's
SCTV.
SCTV, my friend. It was great. Um,
Well,
I
apparently,
like it a little bit more than SNL, but,
SNL
I
is.
even in its heyday, I gotta say, like, I don't know, having, I guess we could go through the list, but, so many, amazing guys, like, every single one of them on SCTV was, like, a major killer where I don't know, I forget a lot of cast members that were on SNL. It's like, "Oh, yeah, they were there for a couple years.
Yeah.
I forgot about that guy."
Yeah, the
So, I don't know,
turnover is
but there
really
is
odd
much
on
left.
SNL. Well, so anyway,
Mhm.
George Carlin, apparently he bottomed when he was talking about peas and, he, give peas a chance, and and Rick Moranis did a bit as Carlin, and like that was the low point of this documentary. And then
Really?
that's the beginning
I
of
don't know how I missed that, or I don't even remember that because I'm a fan of both parties
it's
there.
a
I
it's a
feel like I would have liked that crossover.
fascinating documentary because like it's the early 80s and Carlin, as for my money, was his best in the mid to late 80s and I don't know, all of the 90s. And for something like that to be the stick in his ass where he's like, "All right, I got to reinvent myself." And it's just like, wow, okay, interesting. I like it really in living color more than SNL. Yeah, a lot of people have come
I
from
mean,
that.
come on, like, well, it launched Tommy Davidson. It gave us, some other greats. We
Jennifer
got to know more
Lopez
of
was a dancer
the
on that show.
we got to meet more Wayans brothers. I enjoyed it. Of course, it gave Jim Carrey his start, kind of.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think there's something to In Living Color. Some of those sketches kind of stick with me, but I don't know that all of them would fly now.
Yeah,
But
and, like,
yeah,
that's the
and
thing that, like, is always said about, "Oh, you can't do that today, you can't do that today." Oh, yeah, you can. You can't handle it today is what the problem is. People talking about Tropic Thunder wouldn't be able to be made today. Uh, sorry,
it
if you
might be. It would just be a little different. But
yeah,
I don't know
Tropic Thunder made fun of Hollywood. Like, that movie is making fun of Hollywood. It
for sure.
essentially is what that South Park special was 2 weeks ago. It was just a different version of the same joke. Um, I eh, another reason why I really want to if/when I start performing again, I want to do it in Europe because they're not so
Hmm.
uptight over there.
Hmm.
And plus they
That's
really
interesting. I guess I kind of think of like I don't know. I guess I would have thought it was more uptight, but come to think about it, like yeah, a lot of their comedy is. I don't know. They don't have the same sensibilities, so I could definitely see that being not as pearl clutchy in the same way.
mm.
But that
And
is
London's
interesting. I hadn't
huge.
thought of like
London is a bigger
mhm,
comedy city than New York City is, which is fucking weird. It's just weird.
really.
Yeah. They never
I mean, I
let
guess
me
that
in,
kind of
but
makes sense. Like one day, you never know. Uh,
But yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
that is kind of interesting. I guess I didn't think about that.
Americans
It would make
making
sense.
fun
Like
of
the
America
huge like
is
mhm.
like when I was in Denmark, all I had to do was just say I didn't vote for Trump, and like that was my best joke ever, and it wasn't really a joke that I wrote. It was just it was just me talking about it's not my fault. Whatever whatever you're about to say about America, it's not my fault. And it killed. And all over Europe, they like American comedy, but they like it more when Americans are a bit more, you know, their voice so that they don't have to say it. So I'm okay with
For
that.
sure.
And they're less uptight. Certainly Denmark is. Denmark's still doing what New York clubs would call hack as far as jokes about, you know, I don't know. Perhaps my ableist jokes wouldn't need to be cut in places like Denmark.
Hmm.
It's really interesting to see what these different cultures and everything like what they're worried about as far as their entertainment is concerned. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
It does sound fascinating. I guess I hadn't thought about that. Like, obviously, like there are different sensibilities. Like, you had kind of mentioned like the whole like fanny pack thing, how that would not be the same, and it might in fact be way more offensive.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess I had thought about sensibilities being a little bit different, but I guess I hadn't truly thought of like, this country could be viewed as hack from our, I don't know, comedic standards. Like, that is really interesting.
yeah,
I guess I
like
just never kind of went there in my mind.
there's a bit when I do my live stream later on in the week, I watched this movie called The Royal Hotel where these American girls Yeah, the other thing they tell you to do whenever you tour the world is to say that you're Canadian if you're American, because it's just like this ongoing thing. I've even heard that. Say you're Canadian. Just say you're Canadian because I don't know. We have this weird reputation throughout the world. And Australians use the C word, like we use fuck. Like it's not that big a deal to them. And there's a moment where the two protagonists of the movie, the two females that are just kinda they need to start working because 'cause they're running out of money. And, Hugo Weaving, is like this bar owner, and he's like, "Oh, you a bunch of smart fannies, aren't you?" And, like, there's nothing. There's no music, there's nothing. And then he leaves, and the girl, she's like, "What did he just call me?" And it's like the separation of, what's acceptable in different societies is just so it's fascinating. Like, that word isn't anything over there. I mean, even the women are saying it
For
in that
sure.
movie. It's just really fascinating. I mean, it's another reason why I really fell in love with Carlin's material was words. Just words are just
Yeah, and his grasp of it and his observations on words is it's just so amazing. There's even yeah, there's other comedians that I don't think are quite on the same level, but I agree. It's kind of that like wordplay and kind of that examination of it that really kind of gets them kind of Carlin-esque.
mm,
I don't know, comparisons or whatever. But yeah, I think that guy was one of a kind with that type of. I don't know. He just had a different way of looking at a lot of. It seems like words were kind of a big thing for
yeah.
him, but
Bill
I don't know.
Hicks
I wish I could kind of take that step back and see it kind of his way.
Bill Hicks was a bigger deal in England than he or United Kingdom than he was in the States, which is fascinating. Going back, looking at his old stuff, it's just like, why was he bigger there than here? Like that's so strange. I mean, we liked Dice at that time, but we didn't like Bill Hicks. That's so
Yeah.
strange.
Well, we ran to nursery rhymes for a while. Yeah, it
It's
is kind of
easier.
strange, but that was also kind of like I don't know if you'd call it a flash in the pan because he definitely had like a career and he's kind of come back numerous times. But I don't know. It definitely doesn't seem like it was. That is true. Everybody likes Dice, but there was definitely more of an era of Dice, if you will. There was peak Dice. I think it'd be sometime in the '80s, but that is kind of interesting because yeah, like everything that I'd seen from Hicks is well after the fact, and then it was like his specials where
Mm,
the audience is somewhat chosen. It's not like it was just a random audience or anything like
mm.
that. So maybe I'm not getting like the true essence of like how he was appreciated, but that's strange. I guess I just would have thought that he was more appreciated in America. I never realized that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
Hmm.
so to swing it back into like your history, um, in the UK, they like a concert, they'll put all types of genres in the same bill. Like, you'll have, like, a hip
Definitely
hop
played
band.
those.
Oh, okay.
It can work, but you need to kind of have the same energy. Like you can't go like from metal right to folk. Like I don't know. It doesn't quite work that way. And we had it where like we're a high energy metal act or whatever, and then we'd
Mhm.
open for like literally like this lady with an auto harp, and it was like this isn't a good bill, guys. Like, I understand she's a touring act and like she's the headliner, but like you guys should not have put us on this bill. Like, this is not good. Um, but yeah, it can work though. Like, like we played metal, we definitely played with some rap groups. Like, it worked out great. Like, that
Sure.
was pretty fun. And then every once in a while, like we even get like an MC to come up and kind of be our hype man or whatever. Like that helped. It was awesome, but yeah, I don't know if I could imagine. I don't know. I guess they do that with comedians though too. Like I'm sure you've dealt with like a guitar act or a prop act or
Ugh,
something. Like it
yeah.
feels like that would be a different crowd than like a
But
Hicks or any cerebral type comedian.
but, like, they're their goal usually, I would say 8 times out of 10 is the same intent that I have is to, to get laughter. Like, you know,
Mhm.
I can't imagine being like, "All right, guys, Sarah McLachlan needs just another 5 more minutes. This next song's called Murder Cunt. And 5, 4, 3."
Cannibal Corpse, huh? Yeah, it's, I don't know, it was interesting, like, you do kinda wanna go genres, and I think you'd wanna do that with comedy too, because like, you hear of, like, there are different venues that are, like, different types of rooms, I don't know, it seems like you'd try to bring, like, the appropriate thing, like, you wouldn't do, like, super blue stuff at, like, a corporate event or something, like, I don't know, it does feel like you have to kind of accommodate for the room, I think that's kind of the same idea. It would be good to do that and put, musicians that are similar together to, cultivate that feeling that you're looking for in the room, but, yeah, I
Yeah.
I guess you would have a little bit more leeway with comedians, but
Yeah, because,
I don't know.
I think one of the times I was stuck in airport jail in the UK, I saw this tour shirt and all the bands and performers on the back. I was like, "This is all the same concert? This doesn't make any sense. What how on earth did this happen?" Uh, it like,
I'm
eh, it's
Sometimes
like
at
you
their
said,
festivals, though, it kinda works, like, they'll have, like, kind of like an
different
acoustic
stages though,
stage
right?
over on
Yeah,
one side.
yeah.
Yeah, and that kinda makes sense, then you can kinda go to the one that speaks more to you, but yeah, if it's just all in the same venue, that's tough. Sometimes in those, then they do bring in, like, a comedian, and then, you're, again, doing, like, the
I couldn't
warm-up in
imagine.
between acts
I
or
couldn't
whatever.
imagine.
I couldn't
Mm.
imagine doing that, like, that would be the worst, but I don't
Nobody
know, there's some,
there.
pretty big comedians that have done that for, trying to think, like, Bobcat Goldthwait, I think he was on Nirvana's first tour or whatever, like,
Oh
trying to
my
warm up the
god.
crowd before they went on. Yeah, it seems interesting.
Yeah,
There's also been, a few, like, metal acts that have brought on other people as well. I don't know. It doesn't I all the everyone likes to laugh and everyone likes to, like, rock out to some music, but I don't know that they necessarily go hand in hand, like, at the same venue. It would be really tough to, get a crowd to pay attention to you, I think.
I was far too
I
young.
don't envy those comedians.
I was far too young to appreciate it, but, my mom was a big, Van Halen fan, and I got to see
Nice.
Alice in Chains open for Van Halen. And looking back, I'm like, "How the fuck did those 2 acts get together?" And just like, I really wish I paid better attention because, of all the concerts I've been to, I mean, I saw Limp Bizkit open for the Deftones. That was the last concert I went to because I got my ass kicked. That was the late
Damn.
'90s, and, I
I mean,
preferred
that would've
the
been prime
Deftones.
Deftones time, though.
Right around the fur time, yeah. I did quite enjoy the Deftones, and then, 2 years later, they're not even, Limp Bizkit's just on the, all over the place.
Well, I think, karma has, made everything equal in that, Deftones aren't thought of as kind of a laughing stock, and it's not that whole, like, rollin' thing, but,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you got, Limp Bizkit is kinda thought of as a joke, and, Fred Durst is now kind of a punchline, so
He's
I feel like there's some
directing
kind of karma
movies.
for that.
He made that
Fair
John
enough. I don't
Travolta
think they've
movie
given
that
Tino
was
Marino his, movie to
awful.
direct yet.
No, he is not good at that either.
Ah. Well, I mean, he's good at convincing somebody that he can do something. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe he's magic. I don't know what exactly is
He's got
going on with
secrets
that, but
on somebody.
I'm thinking so. But I don't know. Maybe it's just, people like a punchline,
Well,
and,
how do you
he's kind of a punchline now.
how do you feel? I mean, w- this is kind of something we sort of skated on before. Not exactly nepo babies, but people that are famous for doing something else, trying
Oh,
something else, and getting much further ahead in the line than somebody who's busting their ass. Like,
You mean like the
I'll say,
Cash Me Outside chick who is like now a
oh
recording
my
artist and
God.
an amazing talent, and we are all the better for having.
How
Yeah,
about
it
that?
does seem weird that there are. It does seem weird that there are certain people that get like a cheat code or something.
Mm,
That being said, I don't know. I have no ill will towards her or whatever.
mm.
That's awesome that she's able to parlay that weird, like, I don't know what you'd even call it. Like, it's essentially like the not the father type deal, like that, you don't know
Maury
me.
Povich.
How did she like somehow like parlay that into like an actual like music career? I don't know. Good on her though. Like, I don't know. I have no ill will towards that, but I don't
No,
view it
not.
as legitimate as, somebody who's just written songs their whole life and, has this amazing album that they've worked on for years.
I wasn't. I
It
wasn't
feels like it
fishing
is a
for
cheat
somebody
code.
in particular. I just mean just like in general. Like we were talking about.
Well, I'm sorry that I burned your bridge with Bad Baby. My bad.
Yeah, there goes my MC act there. Fuck, so much for that. The mayor's daughter has actually got some experience from the
Oh
Maury
no.
Povich show. No.
Yeah, I forgot. You do have the skills to MC. You could have, you know, you could have been the one to introduce Bad Baby. Oh wow. I'm sorry
You
that I
may
did
have
that to you.
you may have seen this next act from Dr. Phil. Um, she's not gonna be doing
I
comedy though.
I mean, it's definitely weird and like, the people that are on like well, even then like the talent show ones, like I was gonna say like America's Got Talent or like
Mm.
I can't even remember the original one. But yeah, I don't know. Even then, like they had to kind of win the talent show, so I guess it's not really a cheat code. I guess the ones that I'm thinking of are kind of like the someone who gets popular off of like social media or something, and then somehow parlays that into a career. I don't know. It feels like it kind of works. To me, it doesn't seem that bad because I don't know. Even in comedy, like you have people like the situation. Wasn't it the Donald Trump roast or whatever,
Oh.
where yeah, it shows not everybody can do comedy, like, I don't
Mm.
think you'd have that same type of deal where, like, almost anybody could have somebody write a song for them and, they can have a band play the backing track. You can kinda jump around and kinda get in there on that. It doesn't sound that bad, but, one person, one mic. Like, it really shows whether you can tell a joke, even if somebody wrote it for you, which is what happens at those roasts. Like, you can really see, like, comedy isn't for everybody. So I don't know. It seems like it's more of like a pure art form. I don't think that you could just parlay. I guess you could. I guess there are people who got funny off of Vine or got popular off of like short
Oh,
six
yeah.
second comedy and then tried to. It's not the same as taking the stage.
Well,
So I
there
think that's kind of like it equals it out for them. But yeah, it is tough. I guess you do kind of view them a little bit differently. It's not
there's
somebody who like earned it.
there's that, Vine, uh there's that
We
Vine
burning another
star.
bridge?
Yeah, yeah, well, this is music, so best of luck trying to get a show
Oh,
booked with this person. Gabby something, apparently she started doing, like, music videos on YouTube, and I remember her from Vine because I actually think I followed her on Vine, and, like, she did, like,
Hmm.
little Vine videos, on her way to work. That's what I remember her from, and then, apparently she had a bit of a tiff, and now she's a bit of a diva. Um, who was on Frenemies? Oh, thank you, Dice
Was it Gabby
Roller.
Hanna? So I
It
didn't wanna
was.
burn that bridge and just throw her name out there, but when you said Gabby, I was like, I think he's probably meaning it. So,
Yep,
cool.
yep.
Yes, I am familiar. Uh,
So, what does
yeah.
Rider say?
I'm not exactly sure, but, I would be interested. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, like, the stuff that I've seen of her since I last saw her on Vine, like, she did cringy shit, and,
Yeah.
singing isn't what I would've put anywhere near any of it. Yes, that's, yes. Trisha Paytas was the person that didn't get
And
along with um, Gabby Hanna, from
oh,
what I remember.
I think there's been a few people she hasn't gotten along with.
Oh, okay. That's
Where
weird.
like her,
I
I've actually laughed
I
at a
can't
couple things that
imagine
like Trisha
anybody
Paytas
having
has
more
done.
than one person not like them. I really I find that hard
Yeah,
to
I know.
believe.
Interesting. Uh, so I don't know. It's kind of weird. Where like, yeah, I'm obviously not the target audience for either of them, but
You sure?
I don't know.
Are you
I'm not
sure?
sure. I'm not 100% sure that what I was laughing at from Trisha Paytas was like intentional, but I'd like to think that she's playing a character and she's in on the joke that I'm laughing at. But yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, they were in a certain YouTube royalty or whatever for a certain time. I don't know. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so it could swing to filmmaking. It has nothing to do with comedy. Um, Shane Dawson was a part of a this like show that they were. I think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were like, I don't know, executive producers of, where two people would get
Oh,
the same script. I
I
think it was
remember
called The
that thing. I
Chair.
liked that show a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah.
And you do your version of the same script.
Mm.
And Shane Dawson made, I don't know, the stupidest fucking ridiculous scary movie version of that script possible. Whereas the movie that actually I thought should have won and felt like a movie was Holidaysburg. And every time somebody asks me about a decent Thanksgiving movie that is not Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or
Oh, I
Dusk,
was gonna say there's only one, and
yeah.
it's amazing. But
Uh, yeah,
fair enough.
it's very subdued, whereas Shane Dawson literally has a guy eating shit in the movie, and it's just like, wow,
Well, I mean,
wow.
I think an Oscar-winning film also had that. I don't know. Fair enough. I guess that's not my
That's the
Thanksgiving
bar.
film.
Well, do you have any shit eating? Okay, all right. Welcome to the Academy.
I'm not sure that's the reason why they won, but it did have that in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just like I don't know what Shane Dawson making YouTube videos. I don't know where that has him or gives him any qualifications to have that opportunity. It like, I mean, he literally had people walk off um the production because they were like, this isn't filmmaking. This is terrible. And
Yeah, I mean,
somebody could have had an opportunity there, and it was just Shane's popular. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, and he wins. Okay, interesting.
that definitely sucks. Like, there have definitely been even like good films where they try to shoehorn somebody popular into it, and it just seems to bring everything down. It's like, why did you choose this actor? Like, they're not good for it. I don't know. But yeah, to think that you could actually give like an entire vehicle and like the direction and everything to that, I don't know. That seems to be many, many steps beyond that, where it's like, but this person's hot right now. Let's just put them in this film. Like, I don't know. That seems like somewhat understandable, but I don't know. I guess I don't get it. Other than I guess people like someone that's succeeding and they want to be a part of it. I guess I don't know. That's the only thing I can think because they already have a success. So why do you need to just hand them this other success? I don't know. I guess I don't get it.
Hmm. Um. So I guess we can kind of wrap a bow around it. If anybody has any questions, I guess I'll ask you. What has
Oh yeah.
your time spent on the road? Have you learned anything that maybe doesn't apply to music, but that your time spent on the road has taught you? Yeah, this is
Um, I gotta be honest, like, it just kinda taught me more, I guess how to deal with like interpersonal relationships.
mm,
I really thought more of, what you had to work on was getting like good songs and like a good stage performance. That seems to be part of the, I don't know. It's definitely a huge part of it and a huge component of it, but it's those other 23 hours where you're spending it with like
mhm.
four dudes in a van. Like, can you actually get along? Can you talk to each other? Can you actually like, stand to see each other and to, you know, be in a very confined space for numerous hours on end. Um, that's something that I didn't think about, like, kind of going into it. It was more, can we make like something awesome? Like, is this the best musician possible? Is this the best person for the role? As opposed to like, can I just get along with this person? I think I would take like a mediocre musician that I can get along with rather than like some virtuoso that's just horrible to deal with. And unfortunately, I kind of learned those the hard way. I just hadn't realized like how much of like the interpersonal relationship it all relies on. Uh, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if it's the same like in comedy, but it really sucks. Like with a band, it's not just like one person like scheduling for
Mm.
one person. Like now you've got like all these people that all have to line up, and everyone has to get to practice. Everyone has to, be prepared to then leave like at a certain time. It's a lot different than I had kind of anticipated. I thought basically, like you get some great musicians and you're good to go. And I don't know. It's very far from that. I could just imagine kind of the freedom and the scary amount of like all the responsibility is just on your shoulders when you are just a comedian, just one man, one mic. But I don't know. I just envy that freedom. You're not kind of restricted by everybody else's schedule and getting everybody else to see your vision. Instead, it's just kind of your vision and you get to execute it. Um, I don't know. I think the main thing is like I just didn't realize how much of this is, dealing with people. I just kind of
Mm.
assumed it would be more, you can make a good product and then easy to show people like how good your music is or whatever. But yeah, every one of my bands that fell apart was all due to like interpersonal fighting. Like it's just all I didn't realize how much of it was going to be, human difficulties or whatever. Uh, yeah, just kind of it sucks. I would find some people that you can spend all of your time with, as opposed to like the best musician you can.
That's
I
really actually
think I
really good
had my
advice.
priorities changed.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's.
I'm sorry. With
I
that
was just gonna say
said
it's just kind of the hardest part is you got to spend like 23 hours. Well, more than that with these people. You kind of don't get a break. So make sure it's somebody you can actually like talk to and get along with, because yeah, it gets really awkward really fast, and it's prolonged if you're actually like on a tour. It sucks.
do you think more do you give more credit to bands that have been to well, like say the Deftones for instance? I mean, they lost their bassist unfortunately, but
Hmm.
they've been around for
Rest
30
in
years.
peace,
I mean,
Gene.
Metallica, they've exchanged bassists. You barely knew
Yeah,
Jason was in
a
the
couple
band,
times,
but
but
uh, but like
he
for
was
these
there in Injustice, I swear. Um, yeah, it does give me like a huge respect for these people that, like they kind of chose wisely. Um, uh, I don't know. I'm sure it is just like, the right timing that they found the right people at the right time. And, there is this amazing connection that they have together. But I don't know. I definitely understand some of the more horror stories that you hear of like the singer will not talk to the guitarist and what it's like. I get that. Sadly, it sucks, and then these people are kind of stuck in that band. Maybe they wouldn't necessarily want to see each individual person and their individual whatever side projects, but when they all come together, they are this amazing band.
do you
Like kind of Guns N' Roses comes to
I
mind.
was just
Like apparently Axl Rose just had this huge like ego about him, and they would start shows like 2 or 3 hours late, make everybody just wait. So that doesn't seem as understandable to me, but kind of, hearing just like the interpersonal struggles and how like certain people don't get along, but they still are touring together, and that's why they have to have separate buses and everything.
Jeez.
I kind of understand that now, but at the same time, like I would just hope that it'll be so much easier, and you could just actually find like some friends people you want to hang out with and you want to just shoot the shit with, because that's gonna be what you're doing most of your time. It's not on stage.
Do you think success would help or hurt that?
I don't know, because like there's so many, we can come up with like GNR, as Mikey mentions, David Gilmour and Roger Waters kind of come to mind. They had a huge band. They were arguably, I don't know, one of the top two rock acts at the time, and apparently they just could not get along, and they just had completely different visions. And like it is kind of awesome because they do make such different music, and when together, like the wall is just so amazing. But I I don't know. I think success could add to that as well. I think it'd be easier if you had the money to, go ahead and get two separate tour buses. That would help rather than being in the back of the same van with someone you hate. But I don't know. That would still be tough. I couldn't imagine, having a career that is based on doing something with somebody you hate. I don't know. That does sound like kind of a Faustian bargain, if you will.
It it
Uh,
it goes back to the scene in the spoiler, for a 23-year-old movie, uh, in Almost Famous when they think they're in a plane crash and, like, the truth just comes out from everybody, and it's just like,
yeah.
"Ah, how long have you guys been holding all this shit in?" Dude comes out as gay, and they're like, "What?" And then the plane writes
That is a
itself.
great flick.
It is, it's really incredible. I don't appreciate it the same way I'm assuming you do, but, oh, man, it's really, really awesome.
That one and Spinal Tap are like the go-to for
You
musicians.
know,
I think every musician kind of loves those.
I was trying to find a clip of them going through the hallways, "Hello, Cleveland." I was trying to find that clip to open with, and I couldn't get one that would
Oh, it's
my
so
computer
good.
would cooperate with. Yeah, listen to this
And then,
sustain. I don't hear anything. Yeah, but you could imagine if it was.
but you could. Yeah, I gotta say, like, everything that they, put into that one is just it's so true. Like, I swear I've worked with, like, every one of those musicians. Those are not caricatures. They are very accurate portrayals. It is kinda crazy.
Mm,
But yeah. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I gotta say that's just I don't know, just I couldn't imagine, you know, actually being forced to be in a confined space with somebody you hate for, like, years upon years. Yeah, I don't know. I just more power to those guys, but it really feels like that would be a curse at that time. So, yeah, if I had one bit of advice, I would say just, find people you can actually stand being around and you want to be around.
yeah.
You can probably make it work with almost anybody.
Do you think it's easier for a music band or a comedian to use the platform we are currently on to perhaps get started?
That's interesting. To be honest, I don't see a lot of like new and upcoming bands, and that could be like kind of what I'm clicking on.
Mm,
But and again, it could be the algorithm. But I keep getting like these comedian specials that I've never heard of before
mm,
that keep getting introduced to me through the algorithm.
mhm.
So for me personally, it feels like I'm getting more new comedy out of this, where kind of Spotify seems to be recommending a lot of new artists to me, where I'm kind of digging that. So I think that's kind of more the platform for music. But once you do have a following, like of course, do like this would be awesome. Like it would be very advantageous to have like a live stream with like Q&As, stuff like that, or
Mm.
you could even have like kind of small like acoustic sets or whatever. It seems like there's definitely options for it, but I right now, to me, being a non-professional, it feels like YouTube's kind of a little bit better with the comedy recommendations, and Spotify's a little bit better with the music. But
It's
I
funny
guess
you
it's
say
audio
that.
versus video.
Well, because there's, um, what is his name? Kurt Connor? He's got a few million subscribers. He's got that mullet, that curly hair. He's
Oh,
he's doing stand-up shows in Australia, and I'm like, being funny on YouTube, edited and being funny for an audience, like, I still have yet to figure out timing with, without the feedback.
well,
It's
that's
really interesting. I'm
it's
dying to
such
know
an
how.
issue because it's all about timing, and
Mm,
I couldn't imagine, yeah, it would just be weird. I've seen a couple people who tried to, like, during that couple years or whatever
COVID.
that everything was shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watching people try to do comedy through Zoom, it was
Mm,
just I don't know. There's something about timing, like, it has to actually hit at the same time, and you have to actually I don't know. If there's a delay, everything is just not working, so
yeah.
I don't know, but I guess you'd have that same issue with music too. Like if the guitar is like a note behind everything else, it's not exactly going to work. So I don't know,
The
but
panorama.
but oh, it's trademarked. Um, but yeah, I think you could get away with a little bit more. Fair enough. Sorry, I
Well,
kind
if
of
you could,
sidetracked myself. My
if you record a music video and you just put it out there, that's. I mean, I've seen people do
yeah.
comedy skits where they, like, throw a title up there for less time than any human being can read a sentence, and it's gone, and it's just like, "What? This is what we're doing now? What? I don't know what the panorama is. What do you mean? What?"
Well, it's internet lingo.
Dice, everything I've learned about sex, I've learned about from Dice, oddly enough. Like, do you know what sounding
Yeah.
is?
I do,
Oh,
unfortunately. I heard that you had the, pleasure of learning what that is from dice.
yeah.
I can't remember how I learned, but I wish I could unlearn.
I
Um, yeah, it's kinda scary.
Oh, panorama equals the pandemic to get around targeting on platform oh.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I don't know. I guess
Uh,
my
I'm
mind went
not on
somewhere else with it.
if I was on OBS, I could do my soundboard. I don't I don't think that works. It didn't work. You didn't hear anything, did you?
I could kinda hear it in the background, but,
Yeah.
it was very,
Yeah,
very quiet.
Yeah. Damn, OBS is got so much potential, but at the same time, mm, I gotta look at this dumb green duck over my head. It's a
And I wish I could remember its name, but it's got a name. To
Does it
each
really
their
have a
own,
name?
I think so. I
Aw,
wanna say Flappy, but, there's some sort of, name for the duck thing. I can't remember.
it's
They did a live stream about it at some point.
of course they
The,
did.
StreamYard folks.
Of course they
Yeah.
did. Bastards. They're so lucky. They're so lucky that what was the other one that tried and almost gave them competition? Because I did it for a little bit, and I'm like, "Yeah, this platform sucks."
Oh, it was like EVMU or EVMux was one of them, and then there was
And
another one that was like Stream
it was one word, it was small.
uh,
Oh, what the fuck was it?
yeah.
It was like $5. I was like, shit, it's, melon, that's it, dice to the rescue again."
Oh, I do
Oh,
remember that was kinda big for a minute.
yep,
I had not used it, but I remember a whole bunch of people kinda bringing that up.
and they were
That
terrible.
kinda fell away quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now we just gotta
sadly,
open
StreamYards
wide for
works pretty
StreamYard.
well. Mhm.
Just take it all. Take all of that green duck. So hopefully I will have s some sort of way of doing these open mics in the future. Gray and I have discussed this in private, but, this won't be Weekend Live per se, it'll be like a subsidiary of Weekend Live, but when I do open mics, Gray will be joining me as a feature co-host, and, we're gonna
Hell
talk
yeah.
about comedy and stuff, and I just kinda wanted to break the ice and talk about the differences between, like, touring and just how shitty it is to be people that nobody's heard of. And, like, it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't wanna be here either, jerks. So, the guy you
There's a
came to
lot
see
of
is
that. I think there's a lot of similarities, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we haven't touched on that, I hope someday in the future we'll get to kind of touch
Sure,
on. But
sure. There'll be plenty of time.
yeah, I think there's certain pluses and minuses to each of it, like whether you're going in as an unknown band or an unknown comedian. But I don't know. I think it's very similar. Unfortunately, it's not great to be the person that people don't really want to see there,
Yeah.
and that
Um,
they don't even know that they don't want to see you.
we kinda sniffed it a little bit, but people who say that comedy is dead might be fans of, the special otherwise titled Nanette, and I think, that might
It's
be
so
our
special. It is.
It's, it's art. It's something.
I'll give it
Um,
that. It is
yeah.
art.
So that might be like our icebreaker. And as somebody who has been watching comedy recently in the last couple of years, you'll kind of be my go-to for things. And I watched that
I can be
special.
your comedy Sherpa? I
Yes,
thought
yes,
for sure
please.
you would be the one, okay, I'll
I
carry
can
your
tell you
packs here.
about the
We'll do
way
this.
things used to be, and, why you damn kids with your Nanettes don't know anything about real comedy.
It's the realist, okay? You don't know how real she got there. Yeah, I can understand preferring, comedy with jokes, but, fair enough, to each their own.
Listen, it's just an hour special. They didn't say, oh, Dice. Dice,
Mm,
listen, as a member of the rainbow community, you're supposed to you have to fly the flag and stand by, Hannah Gatsby because Nanette is, it's like, I mean, shit, Emily gets shit for not liking it. So that's the other thing, the whole teams thing. Like, I don't understand. We have to support this person because no one ever sentenced me.
well, make sure they have the right email address or something, and I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, Hannah Gatsby made some big waves with this, very special comedy, if you can call it that, special, but,
yeah. It was an hour on Netflix, and Hannah had the stage all to themselves. I don't know if Hannah goes by she or they or what, but no disrespect whatsoever to the human being or what they went through. But I mean,
oh,
I
for sure.
I would not go on stage and just talk about how, you know, 20 minutes of how I felt when I got the phone call that my father committed suicide like that. I don't know if that would be entertaining to people,
But I
but
I think there would
I
be a
can't
way
wait.
you could do that. But have you considered no, I get it. I get that that's not your intention and, that doesn't appeal to you to bring that out there. But if you did, I have a feeling that you'd actually put some punchlines in there somewhere, and I think that's kind of the difference. Like, I've seen some really dark humor and some really dark bits, but
Yeah,
the way that they kind of made up for that was with punchlines. Like,
yeah.
it kind of, draws you in, and I didn't get that from this one. So, yeah, I'd be interested as a comedian, as a professional,
What's
kinda your opinion on that.
Stop doing that. You motherfucker, stop doing that. You don't call me professional. If I haven't worked in the 2020s, you stop doing that. Uh, it's funny when you were saying that, I actually just thought of a punchline for that. I mean, listen, I can't do that for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
but when I was notified, somebody said, "You need to call me really quick." A joke there would be, and the irony was I wasn't I was on a cordless phone. Um, my father hung himself. So, there you go. Trolls of the future. I just wrote a joke for you. You're welcome.
But I mean, like, there is a way that you
But
could approach that subject, and
oh yeah, yeah, no,
it would include, like, punchlines. Like, this was just kinda more I don't know. I guess we'll kinda look at it once we, go into it, but
yeah,
it wasn't that. Instead, it was kinda more pity me type of deal, and I don't know. I can't see, it was more like a TED Talk than a, actual
yeah,
comedy special, but
yeah, yeah,
mm.
yeah. Pity seeker, as Patrick's put it.
Yes, so eloquently put.
And
But yeah, I look forward to discussing that at some point.
I hope that we genuinely do punch up for the Hassan Minaj bit, because that sounds like genuine fun.
It does. I think there's funny ways that you could go about these, but
Of course.
they include jokes. It's not just the, like, clapter thing,
Wait,
so
you mean
I don't
jokes
know.
in a comedy show? What are you talking about?
I mean, maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm just not hip on, what comedy is today, but
Yeah.
apparently it's not necessarily jokes.
No.
Hmm.
No, it's just being safe and making sure that people I don't know. Art is supposed to challenge, and comedy is art. Sorry. Not sorry.
Well,
um
I challenge you to find the funny part in there, but, yeah, I'm not sure that that's the challenge that we're supposed to have. Um, yeah, I guess, it seems challenged in a certain way.
all right. So would not I do have, everybody's got family things and all this other stuff. I am going to England before the end of the month.
Hell
Um
yeah. Congrats, man. It's
we'll
been a
see if
minute.
they let me in. I might be right back.
Yeah, I guess, let's not celebrate too soon, but, that sounds awesome. On paper,
Yeah. Yeah,
congrats.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll fly over. I'll definitely get over there. Whether or not they let me in and stay for a while, that's the true hurdle. But you know, I'd like to do this on a semi-regular thing. Um,
Hell yeah.
there's something I'll talk to you about when we're off to see whatever. I'm challenged every day. But
Well, that's a
yeah,
good thing. I mean, nobody wants just smooth sailing. You need
yeah,
to have some challenges,
yeah.
variety.
I don't know if I'd call it challenge, but I'm just like, oh, I woke up again. Damn it.
It didn't work. Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you have coming up on your channel? Uh
Uh, Not a ton. I have a few weekly live streams, but kind of the main thing is Thinkers on that darn kidda's channel every Thursday. So yeah, if you get a chance, go over to her channel instead of mine. Yeah, always fun over there.
all right. Yeah, since I have to do everything in post anyway, I will put that in the description later on.
Oh yeah.
If you're watching this sometime Saturday, Sunday, what you're watching now will be smushed together into a hybrid of what we started with